Chapter 21. I'm going to fight. Carter gave Steve a white look and a light drink, then grabbed him, waved his white fist, and hit Steve in the chest with a straight fist. Some of the distracted Steve had no time to dodge. Carter punched him in the chest and took 2 steps back. Rubbing his aching chest, Steve immediately gathered his thoughts, became serious, and looked up at Carter cautiously. Seeing Steve getting into shape, Carter nodded with satisfaction and punched Steve again. Steve is serious. His fighting skill is not inferior to Carter's. The strength of the 2 men is also between Bo Zhang. Steve raises his hand to hold Carter's fist. Before she takes back her hand, he holds her wrist and pulls hard to destroy her balance. Carter has also received professional combat training. He has more practical experience than Steve. He immediately realized his intention, followed Steve's pull, turned around, and hit Steve in the abdomen with an elbow. Steve still holds Carter's wrist in one hand and quickly presses the other hand to remove Carter's elbow. The fighting ability of the 2 men is equal and their strength is not much different. For a while, you will come and go to fight with us. The fighting will be full of color and strength. Looking at the 2 people fighting in front of him, Chen Mo smiled happily. Steve, Master can only help you here. Finally, the contest between the 2 ended with Carter's 1 demerit shoulder wrestling and successfully toppling Steve. Carter wisely didn't mention the contest with Chen Mo again. He took the initiative to ask Chen Mo to call on her every time he taught Steve in the future. For the lifelong happiness of his apprentice, Chen Mo agrees with Steve's expectation. As a result, Steve has another dream junior sister. Chen Mo found that Carter's talent in fighting is no less than Steve's. After a period of training, they always win more than lose, but Carter didn't look down on Steve. She knew exactly what Steve was like before and how hard he worked. She only praised and recognized Steve in her heart but didn't despise him at all. She believed that he would be stronger in the future. But I won't be easily overtaken by you. Carter secretly inspired himself. With the research going on day by day, Chen Mo knows more and more about super soldier serum and helps Dr. Erskine more and more. Finally, the new generation of serum optimized and improved has been successfully developed, and the human test delayed for several months is finally about to start. Once again, the question of candidates for the experiment has been put in front of several people. Colonel Phillips is not satisfied with the thin Steve. Although he is not as thin as he looks in the Colonel's eyes, the real fighter should be as tall, strong, swift, and powerful as Chen Mo. But Dr. Erskine is still hesitating. He is optimistic about Steve. His kindness and integrity moved him, but Chen Mo's performance is also excellent. Unlike Colonel Phillips, Dr. Chen Mo paid more attention to his inner quality. Chen Mo did a good job and he had a lot of ideas. His views on the war also made Dr. Chen agree with him very much, so he still hesitated and could not make a decision. On this day, the 2 argued over the issue again, persuading the fruitless colonel to prove with facts that his idea is right. It's courage to fight. When Colonel Phillips finished, he threw a fake grenade into the crowd. "There are grenades," the colonel shouted a warning. When he heard that there were grenades, a group of soldiers spread out in an instant, each looking for a shelter, while Steve jumped on them desperately and pressed the grenades firmly with his body. Just then, an arm suddenly reached out. As soon as he pulled Steve apart, Chen Mo quickly picked up the grenade from the ground and threw it into the open space more than 100 meters away with all his strength. After a slow pat, Agent Carter stopped and looked at the 2 desperate people in front of him with a smile on his cold face. The soldiers around looked at the grenades disappearing in the distance and looked at each other. They all felt speechless. Chen Mo, a pervert, threw them too far. There was no explosion for a long time and people also responded. It was a grenade for exercise and training. Colonel Phillips and Dr. Erskine looked at each other. Both of them were pleased, but they were helpless. The problem remained unsolved. That night, Chen Mo came to Dr. Erskine's room. "Chen Mo, what's the matter with you? Open the door, see is Chen Mo. The doctor is a little surprised. First, come on. After asking Chen Mo to come in and sit down, the doctor asked, for the sake of experiment. Yes, doctor, Chen Mo said directly. I hope you can choose Steve. The answer was somewhat unexpected. Why? The doctor looked at his assistant, puzzled. Steve needs this opportunity more than I do. Going to war has always been his dream. This is his only chance, and I can wait for the next time. After Chen Mo finished speaking, the doctor's eyes became more and more gentle. He had already appreciated Chen Mo. Chen Mo's words greatly increased the doctor's favor for him again and made his heart more recognized. In fact, I've been hesitating. You two really make it hard for me to choose. The doctor got up and took out a bottle of wine from the cupboard and poured a glass for both of them. Now that you have decided, okay, tomorrow you will join in the experiment as my assistant. I think Steve needs your encouragement too. Thank you, doctor. Chen Mo raises his glass. No, thank you. I don't have to worry about who to choose. You are both excellent. The doctor also raised his glass. They were drinking wine, and Dr. Erskine, who trusted Chen Moyu, talked about their experiences. Dr. Erskine was a German. When Hitler came to power, he heard about his research and sent him to the research department of Hydra headquarters to make super soldiers for the Communist Party. The current leader of Hydra, Schmidt, is ambitious and as obsessed with superpowers and myths as Hitler. He wants to be Superman and gain the power of God. So, after Schmidt discovered the ability of serum, he forced the doctor to strengthen him. However, the serum was not mature at that time, and the side effects disfigured Schmidt and turned him into a red skull. The serum can enhance all aspects of human beings. The good is better, the bad is worse, so Schmidt becomes more evil. His ambition is also growing. He wants to rule the world. Finally, the doctor said a little heavily, "Did Schmidt know you were here? The following conversation is very important." The doctor held the hand of the wine glass and said, "With the intelligence ability of Hydra, it is possible. So, doctor, I think tomorrow's experiment is likely to be dangerous. Schmidt can't just watch us make a lot of super fighters." Chen warned, "You are right." But before the doctor finished speaking, he was interrupted by Chen Mo. "And even if the experiment goes well, what's next? Give the recipe to the politicians, let them create the super legion, and then what? Will the formula be leaked to Schmidt and other aspirants?" Didn't wait for the doctor to deny, Chen Mo continued. "Well, even if the formula doesn't leak, politicians will seize this powerful power and win the war. After that, they will be willing to hand over the power that is enough to subvert the world or simply disband it. What will a group of iron soldiers with superhuman power bring to the world?" Chen Mo's words stunned the doctor. He didn't expect that his research would bring these consequences. He had been expecting his research to end the war and maintain peace. He was worried that the serum was stolen by Hydra before, but he never considered the reaction of the high level of the Allies. He imagined the terrible consequences of the abuse of the serum, and the doctor could not help sweating. "What should we do?" The doctor, who returned to God, looked at Chen Mo eagerly, expecting Chen Mo to give him an answer. Chen Mo pondered for a moment. "Maybe we should talk to the Colonel and Agent Carter." That night the four talked late into the night. Chapter 22. So after the storm, 5 people got together again. Under the guidance of Chen Mo, after careful deliberation and heated discussion, a new organization was secretly established here. Chapter 23. This organization is not under the control of any country or force, and is jointly led by the 5 people present as the core members of the organization. Its purpose is to maintain world peace, protect the Earth's security, and deal with various special events threatening human security. They will use the super soldier serum to strengthen the internal members who have passed the strict test and can be absolutely trusted within the controllable range, while the current internal members are only Steve, who is not yet informed, and he will join at the right time. In addition to the core members and internal members, A group of peripheral members are also needed to provide intelligence, logistics, and other support. At present, the organization will temporarily hide in the Strategic Science Reserve Team and gradually develop a group of independent peripheral members based on it. Now, only a few trusted confidants of the Colonel are available. Is it a bit exaggerated to protect the Earth? Howard looked at Chen Mo and he put forward these advanced suggestions. Or what? Protect America. Glancing at him obliquely, Chen Mo raised his hand and drew a circle. The doctor is German, Carter is British, and I am Chinese. Why don't we just call it the British Virtues Central Protection Bureau? Can you look away? Can the mind be broad? The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Do you understand? Howard was angry, but he couldn't find a reason to contradict. After holding for a long time, he blushed and mumbled, "That should be called the U.S., UK, Germany, China Protection Bureau." "What did you say?" "Louder, I can't hear you." Chen Mo asked, clenching his fist. Howard wisely chose to change the subject. "What's our name?" Finally, under the proposal of Chen Mo, the name of the organization was officially determined as Shendun Bureau. Chen Mo became one of the 5 founders of the Shendun Bureau. He is responsible for external combat and will lead the army to attack the Hydra next. Colonel Phillips was responsible for logistics, command, and liaison with the United States, and as the first secretary of the SHIELD, he managed the operation and development of the entire organization. As an elite agent, Carter will be responsible for the formation of the Intelligence Department and intelligence collection. Dr. Erskine and Howard are responsible for providing scientific and technological support, including serum strengthening, combat equipment, defense facilities, etc., as well as the interpretation of captured Hydra technology. From the perspective of captured Hydra single submarine, the technology level of Hydra is at least 30 years ahead of the world. Of course, when there is no mission, Chen Mo will also join in. Dr. Erskine has a lot of complaints about letting Chen Mo take charge of the battle, calling for wasting talents. The first thing after the establishment of Shendun Bureau is to strengthen Chen Mo. The whole process of strengthening is very smooth. With Chen Mo's strong spirit and willpower, the pain of strengthening is strong, but it can be endured. The enhancement effect of the original serum in the movie is about 4 times. After Chen Mo's intervention, the enhancement effect of the enhanced serum on ordinary people has been increased to 5 times. Chen Mo does not know what the enhancement effect will be if he has 4 times the physical strength of ordinary people. When the strengthening cabin was opened and Chen Mo came out, his straight body became bigger and bigger. His muscles were bulging, but he did not appear to be bulky, but showed a perfect streamline. The whole body was long and strong, as if it contained the ultimate speed and explosive power. Chen Mo felt the changes of his body carefully. Serum can really strengthen people's abilities in all aspects, and even their mental strength has been improved. The space is expanded to 2 meters long, with a volume of 8 cubes. The brain area is developed again, which can be remembered without intentional memory. All kinds of things happened before, no matter how big or small. Chen Mo can recall clearly, and his ability of thinking and learning has been greatly improved again. Now it is impossible to say that he is a genius. The physical fitness that has already been close to the limit of human beings has finally been broken through. After testing, the strength of lying push has reached 815 kg. The height of jumping in place is 4 meters. The distance is 8 meters, and the sprint jump has to exceed a lot. The fastest speed is 25 meters seconds, and the bone strength and recovery speed are about 6 times that of ordinary people. The result of Steve's test before was 680 kg of lying push, 3 m of jumping height, 6 m of distance, 22 m of speed, 5 times of bone strength and recovery speed of ordinary people, and other aspects of endurance, reaction speed, anti-strike etc. Chen also surpassed Steve by a large margin. At the same time, the internal organs have also been strengthened. Both their strength and function have been greatly improved, and they can withstand greater impact. The heart becomes more powerful, beating very slowly at ordinary times, but when it is needed, it can burst out a powerful power, quickly transport the blood to the whole body, and support the huge consumption of high-intensity exercise. The detoxification ability of the liver and the breathing ability of the lung are also very strong. After the successful reinforcement, Chen Mo returned to the martial arts school and arranged for a flight to London with the Colonel, Carter, and Howard. The Colonel has received new orders, and the Strategic Science Reserve will next take on the task of eliminating Hydra. But Dr. Higgins, who had died, stayed in the secret base of New York to continue the research of strengthening serum, so as to reduce the pain of strengthening as much as possible, so as to reduce the excessive demand for willpower and improve the success rate of strengthening. In fact, long before the experiment, Chen Mo had hesitated to send a Hydra spy to cooperate with the performance. According to Dr. Higgins' understanding of Hydra, even if I didn't think of it before since I was reminded by Chen Mo, if Hydra didn't do it, it would arouse their suspicion. Moreover, if the Colonel's people do it, it's easy to leave flaws. After some weighing, Chen Mo decides to sacrifice several spies to let the script continue as it used to be. On the surface, everything seems to be the same as the original plot, but behind it, there are earth-shaking changes. After arriving in London, the Strategic Science Reserve team settled down in the underground base prepared by the British side. Agent Carter immediately began to contact MI6 for the latest information. The Colonel also contacted the Allies, while Howard plunged into the laboratory. Seeing that he had nothing to do with himself, Chen Mo went to the bathroom alone. Closed the door of the innermost compartment. Chen Mo looks around. The washroom is clean. In the inconspicuous corner of the wall, Chen Mo finds a light special mark that looks like an ordinary stain. Chen Mo fumbled, opened a very hidden dark grid in a specific way, and took out a roll of paper. Opened the paper roll, which is the latest information of Hydra recorded with special code. With the full development of Red Skull and the support of science and technology, the intelligence system of Hydra has been infiltrated and expanded for many years, and has already penetrated into the important departments of various countries. From top to bottom, it can be said that it is all-pervasive. Its scale is huge, its organization is strict, and its strength is extremely terrible. Chen Mo has always been surrounded by Hydra-headed people who help deliver intelligence and Chen Mo's orders. Of course, they don't know who is opening the dark box. Their duty is to deliver information. Too much they know will only be cleaned up, so no one knows Chen Mo's identity. And places like public toilets are not arranged in advance, so it is difficult to lock Chen Mo's identity. With Chen Mo's sensitive senses, the surrounding environment is under his control all the time, and no disturbance can escape his perception. Therefore, Chen Mo is not worried about identity exposure. Intelligence said that the head of state Hitler would send people to inspect the headquarters in the Alps. Chapter 24. Chen Mo knew that Hitler had been dissatisfied with the Red Skull for a long time. He originally gave the Hydra to Schmidt to provide the German army with new and powerful weapons, but after Schmidt took over, the Hydra began to expand vigorously, but the weapons were not provided much. This time, Chen Mo's arrangement made Hitler suspect and sent his henchmen to investigate, which was not surprising. In addition, another piece of information is to make Chen Mo's eyes fixed. Hydra mutinous base. Long before leaving Norway, Chen Mo had ordered that European bases shrink their forces. devote themselves to scientific and technological research and development, and do not interfere in the fight between and the Allies. But now several bases in Europe, in addition to the 3 bases that Chenmo intends to keep, including the Alpine headquarters, are acting in full accordance with Chenmo's orders, hiding to carry out scientific and technological research and development, while other bases are acting in defiance of Chenmo's orders. Now they have directly violated Chenmo's orders and joined Hitler's attack on the Allied forces. Can't help it at last. After reading the information, Chenmo couldn't help sneering. In fact, the revolts of several bases were all expected by Chenmo, or even caused by Chenmo's deliberate indulgence. In the process of controlling Hydra, Chenmo has found that although Red Skull controls Hydra very well, most people in the organization regard Red Skull as a god and will not hesitate to strictly comply with all his orders. But there are still some people who are still loyal to Hitler, that is to say, the backhand arranged by Hitler in the Hydra. After all, the Hydra was originally handed over to the Red Skull by Hitler, but was slowly controlled by the ambitious Red Skull and gradually separated from Hitler's control. Now Chenmo has transferred all the people who are loyal to him. Only these Hitler loyalists are in charge of the base. Naturally, they are uneasy. After the red skeleton disappeared for such a long time, they began to move. Put the paper recording intelligence into the space, take out the same special paper, write down the command with code and put it back into the dark space. The paper for recording information is specially made. Once the dark grid is opened in the wrong way, the paper will directly ignite, and even the ashes will not be left. In fact, Chenmo can also choose to use radio. There is a radio equipment made of Hydra in Chenmo's space, but it is easy to be intercepted when it is used in the base. Although it can't be deciphered, it will cause unnecessary doubt, so most of the time, Chenmo still uses this ancient but secret way to transmit information. As for the inspectors sent by Hitler, Chenmo ordered them to be killed directly, while the rebel base kept monitoring until Chenmo dealt with them personally. At this time, Dr. Zola's research on the magic cube of the universe has achieved results. The energy in the magic cube can be converted and used. Many of Dr. Zola's previous ideas have also become reality with the support of energy. New weapons have been developed with great power, but the charging time is long and the volume is relatively large. Chenmo had ordered Dr. Zola to continue his research and optimization, and he did not equip the troops for the time being, so the rebellious Hydra troops were not equipped with energy weapons. From the temporary headquarters in London to the front line, Chenmo will lead an elite combat team of the Strategic Science Reserve Team to start the attack on these rebel Hydra bases. Chenmo will clean up these poisonous tumors by himself and make Hydra completely disappear from the eyes of the world. Before leaving, Howard called Chenmo to his laboratory. Due to the time crunch, Howard had no time to tailor Chenmo's combat equipment, so he asked Chenmo to directly choose from his inventory. Chenmo is not polite. He ignores a bunch of high-tech weapons and equipment and directly turns out the shield in the film. In his opinion, this is the most valuable thing. The silver and white metal shield is not as heavy as it looks. No, it's not finished. Howard quickly waved to stop. What kind of material is this? Chenmo doesn't pay attention to it and asks as he looks over. In the movie, the shield is very powerful. Not only is it indestructible, but any attack can be counteracted by it, and it will not cause a little damage to the man behind the shield. In the reconnection, Steve uses it to connect the hammer of Thunderbolt with all his strength, which makes him have a strong interest in the material of the shield. Sound-absorbing steel, stronger than steel, weighs only a third of it. Howard replied helplessly, most importantly, it can make an attack ineffective. The shield is round in shape, with a diameter of about 70 cm. It can block the whole upper half of the body when raised in front of the body. With a slight bend, the shield can protect the head together. With this shield in the battlefield, the survival ability and combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. And its material is very hard, and it can attack and defend. With Chenmo's great strength, it can play a strong offensive force. In the movie, Steve can be invincible in the battlefield and destroy all the bases of Hydra. This shield plays a crucial role. Then why not equip the whole army in mass production? Chenmo put the shield on his left arm, waved it for a while, and nodded with satisfaction. This kind of material is very rare on the Earth. This one in your hand is unique. Howard watched Chenmo take this beloved collection as his own. He wanted to object, but he didn't dare to open his mouth. He knew that once a good thing arrived in Chenmo's hand, it was impossible to come out again. He had to give up his life reluctantly. If he had known that his eyes were so sharp, he should have hidden the shield first. "You made it?" Chenmo asked, looking at Howard, who was unwilling and hurt. Howard blushed. "It's Dr. Myron Maclean. He's a very powerful material scientist. In an experiment, he accidentally mixed gold, iron, and some unknown material together to make this shield. But after that, he couldn't replicate the process again." Howard said, shaking his head with regret. "Zhenjin Chenmo knows that it is a kind of special metal contained in meteorites falling on the Earth. It is extremely hard, but its quantity is rare and extremely precious. But Dr. Maclean, whom Howard mentioned, attracted Chenmo's interest. Where is Dr. Maclean now?" "In New York, he is trying to make this super alloy again, but it is very rare to vibrate gold. Limited by the experimental materials, there has been no progress." Howard and Dr. Maclean are very familiar with each other. They often work together and know him well. Nodded, Chenmo didn't ask again, asked Howard to help paint the shield black, and then left the laboratory with the shield in Howard's reluctant eyes. At this time, the side had an absolute advantage in the European battlefield. Chapter 25. Most of the whole European continent was under Hitler's control, and the Allied forces could not break through the defense circle of all the time, and the appearance of the Hydra force slowed the Allied attack greatly, causing great casualties. Although Chenmo did not equip the energy weapons, they still had the original mechanical force of Hydra. But with the heavy armored weapons such as giant tanks and armored vehicles that surpassed the current technological level of the Allied forces, and the elite 9-headed snake soldiers who are firm in belief and fearless in death, they still maintain their absolute suppression power against the Allied forces in local battles. Fortunately, the number of powerful Hydra troops is limited. They control several bases on Hitler's side. Each base has less than 500 troops, which cannot change the overall situation. However, the elite 9-headed snake army still had an impact on the local war situation. Every time they met with them, the Allied forces would suffer heavy casualties. After Chenmo led the team, the situation changed again. In the movie, the reason why Steve led the Roaring Commando team can easily eliminate the base of Hydra is that Steve's own powerful force. With Chen's strong strength, the bases he gave up were even more fragile and could be destroyed. For the first time, Chenmo really went to battle. He felt full of blood. He enjoyed the whole process of fighting. For the first time, he was able to completely let go of all constraints and wantonly exert all his strength. He only felt hearty when fighting. Each bullet hit the shield, which made his heart beat faster and excited him. In the fierce battle, Chenmo's heart has been constantly tempered, and the temperament of the whole person has changed greatly. With the continuous killing, Chenmo's murderous spirit is more and more serious. His eyes are more and more fierce, and his face is more and more cold. But Chenmo is not lost in the killing. In the fighting, his mind is extremely calm. Every time he kills a person, his heart is more and more calm and clear. Under the tempering of the battlefield, Chenmo's spiritual strength began to grow again. It's true that heroes are born in troubled times. Only on the battlefield can the soul be best honed, and the spiritual strength be continuously improved. In peacetime, it's hard to awaken special abilities. Even if you awaken your abilities by chance like Chen Mo, it's hard to improve your abilities, because only the battle between life and death is the best way to improve your abilities. Chen Mo is more and more eager to fight. Every time he finds the trace of the Hydra army, Chen Mo will immediately lead his team to arrive. One by one, the camps and strongholds of Hydra are destroyed by Chen Mo. In this battle, Chen Mo's actual combat experience has been accumulating constantly. His fighting skills have been eliminated, and his moves have been refined under the actual combat. His fighting has become more and more violent, and his killing power is amazing. However, Chen Mo will not fight blindly. He still likes to sneak in to assassinate and sabotage first, eliminate the threat, and then fight head-on. If not necessary, he will not attack directly. In fact, for him, it doesn't matter how to defeat him except for his personal preference. He is only a little bit more troublesome in the face of strong attack. With a shield in his hand, he is not afraid of the enemy's gunfire. But his special forces soldiers are all elite, but they are ordinary people after all. It's too easy to cause casualties when making a strong attack, so Chen Mo will usually tear up the enemy's defense alone, and then let the special forces come forward to support him. A few months passed quickly in the battle. In October 1943, Chen Mo came to the world nearly 2 years ago. In a dense forest of towering trees, there is a large and heavily defended base. The whole base is protected by the continuous high and solid walls. The gate guarded by heavy soldiers is the only access to the base. Suddenly, a tall and vigorous figure rushed out of the forest. Chen Mo, wearing a full black combat suit, with a gun in one hand and a shield in the other, launched an attack on the base of Hydra. The 9-headed snake soldiers who were not prepared at the gate of the base fell down one by one with the sound of the guns, and each shot hit the key point of a soldier. Other Hydra soldiers also found Chen Mo, who appeared suddenly and then launched a fierce counterattack. Carrying the shield to block the bullets from the front, Chen Mo inserted the pistol back into the holster beside his thigh, took a grenade from his waist, pulled out the pull ring, and directly threw it into the 9-headed snake soldiers 100 meters away. Boom! With a violent explosion, the door was cleared out of a large open space, and the bullets also slowed down. Howard didn't boast. The high explosive grenades he provided were really powerful. Taking advantage of the pause of the opponent's firepower, Chen Mo immediately put down his shield and burst out at full speed. At a distance of more than 100 meters, with Chen Mo's limited speed, he rushed into the gate of the base in just a few seconds. As soon as the nearby Hydra soldiers gathered, Chen Mo rushed in front of them. Before they shot, Chen Mo ran into the crowd with his shield in both hands. Chen Mo is like a charging chariot. All the 9-headed snake soldiers in front of him are knocked out and thrown into the air. Their chest is sunken, their internal organs are broken, and they are dead before landing. In the previous battle, Chen Mo especially liked to sneak in to assassinate and sabotage, which made the 9-headed snake soldiers everywhere. During the day and night, the defense was very strict. Chen Mo had no choice but to give up the sneak attack and take a positive attack. However, in the face of absolute strength, no matter how strong the defense will be easily torn. When the explosion stopped, Chen Mo rushed into the soldiers without using a pistol. Chen Mo stretched his back and pulled out his long sword. It was the king's sword Chen Mo accidentally got in the Norwegian church. With a wave of shield in his left hand, Chen Mo lifted several people on his side and saw a flash of cold light in his eyes. The long sword in his right hand came out. The silver blade made a long arc and directly cut several 9-headed snake soldiers with guns. Sen Leng's sword light dances everywhere, and the gushing blood splashes in the air, which sets off Chen Mo's murderous cold face and makes people feel scared. Under Chen Mo's great power, the king's sword, which is extremely sharp, is invincible. It can easily cut off everything it encounters. Nothing can resist Chen Mo's sword. However, most of the bullets fired by the Hydra soldiers were blocked by Chen Mo's shield. Even if Chen Mo was hit due to the fire covering his whole body and unable to give consideration to it, it would not bring any damage to Chen Mo. The bullet fell on Chen Mo, all of which were shot directly, leaving only a small hole in his clothes, revealing a silver below. Although the bulletproof vest technology is not developed at this time, there are still some bulletproof steel plates. These special bulletproof steel plates, originally used in armored vehicles and helicopters, were made into a complete set of bulletproof vest by Chen Mo, which was almost covered by the bulletproof steel plate. Its weight is not light, but with Chen Mo's super strength and endurance, this weight does not affect his fight at all. Chen Mo only needs to pay attention to using shield to block more powerful attacks, such as bullets fired at the head and anti-aircraft guns. In fact, Chen Mo's reaction and agility at this time can avoid bullets, but the firepower on the battlefield is too dense, and it takes too much time to dodge. Therefore, Chen Mo simply relies on the shield and bulletproof armor to fight hard in the face-to-face attack. Anyway, with his physical strength, the impact of the bullet can't even make him feel pain and completely affect his action. Chen Mo, who was immersed in the battle, had a cold face. When he wielded the long sword, he would take a piece of blood light and several lives with him. In a second, he would kill all the 9-headed snake soldiers around him. His broken limbs, arms, and broken guns would be scattered all over the place, and the spilled blood would dye the whole land around him red. All of a sudden, Chen Mo suddenly turned his head and looked forward with sharp eyes. Chen's perception has detected a trace of danger ahead of time. Chapter 26. I saw a tank in the distance turning the turret, trying to aim the muzzle at him. Chen Mo saw the shape of the turret and immediately started to face the tank. A burst of sprint in the distance of more than 10 meters from the tank, Chen Murphy jumped up, drew a perfect arc in the air, and fell towards the tank's turret. The gunner in the tank was still aiming, but suddenly found that the target had been lost in the field of vision. He landed steadily on the turret. Chen Mo cut off the gun barrel of the tank with a sword. He lifted the shield with his left hand and fell down with a heavy blow, directly breaking the hatch cover. After a high explosive grenade blew up the tank, Chen Mo found the next target again, jumped on an armored vehicle several steps, and killed it easily in the same way. Dodging the bullets of the Hydra soldiers, Chen Mo soon solved all the most dangerous heavy weapons, and the remaining hundreds of soldiers were no longer a threat. There are not many troops in the base, less than 500 in total. Most of them are sent out to fight outside. In fact, the base's defense force is not strong. The troops fighting with the allies outside have already been wiped out one by Chen Mo. The Hydra force in this area is now only the base. After the biggest threat was eliminated, Chen Mo sent out a signal of attack. Hundreds of elite fighters of special forces who had been waiting for a long time rushed in immediately. They wear the same black battle suits as Chen Mo, and the inside is the lighter and weakened version of bulletproof armor. Although the weight of dozens of kilograms will affect their flexibility, they don't need to dodge too much after Chen Mo has eliminated most of the heavy firepower. In fact, this heavy bulletproof armor greatly enhances their survival ability. The 9-headed snake army in the base was beaten and maimed by Chen Mo. The joining of this new force accelerated their demise. At this time, it can be said that the overall situation has been determined. Chen Mo inserted his sword back into the scabbard behind, pulled out his pistol, and joined the battle again. With the joining of the special team, the Hydra soldiers are busy coping with the fierce attack of hundreds of special team members. They are already overwhelmed, and the bullets fired at Chen Mo are not as dense as before. This time, Chen Mo does not raise his shield to resist, but uses his keen perception and Superman's reaction speed to evade the bullets and shoot back while taking advantage of the opportunity to exercise his own reaction and avoidance the ability of a bullet. In this way, the speed of killing the enemy is naturally much slower. The battle is over before Chenmo finishes hitting the third cartridge. Commander. The first team leader of the Special Forces team came forward to report the results to Chenmo. Clear all enemies. We have completely occupied the whole base. The Hydra base broke down. This is the second Hydra base Chenmo destroyed. As the real boss behind the scenes of Hydra, Chenmo has no discomfort in destroying his own base. Breaking and then establishing, not to mention that these bases are all nine-headed traitors, loyal to Hitler. In Chenmo's original plan, these bases will also be abandoned. World War II will come to an end in a few years. By then, these bases that are not hidden enough will be discovered sooner or later. They are not as good as waste utilization. On the one hand, it can completely eliminate internal rebellion and completely control Hydra. On the other hand, it can hoodwink the forces of all countries and completely hide. On the other hand, it can improve its position and reputation in the Allies, gain complete trust, and deepen its control of Shandong Bureau. Who would have thought that Chenmo, who personally destroyed Hydra, would be the real controller of Hydra? New York, Brooklyn. In the evening, at the beginning of the day, every family's dining table has been filled with rich food. The whole family gathered together and had dinner together with laughter. At this time, the atmosphere in the martial arts school is heavy. A few minutes ago, there was a rush of footsteps outside the door. The door was suddenly pushed open. A fierce figure rushed in anxiously, but Wang Kun, the boxer who had just left, suddenly returned to the martial arts school. No matter how surprised he looked at all the people in his martial arts school, Wang Kun hurried up to the second floor, then came down from the upstairs again. Without saying a word, he walked quickly to the door, but the waistline he raised told them what he had done upstairs. "What are you doing with a gun?" the old housekeeper asked at once. Huang Quan, several people also hurriedly stopped in front of him. "Wang Kun, what happened? What are you doing? It must be something that happened to him." As early as the time when Tony, the mad dog, came to the door, Chenmo got a pile of long and short guns and asked all the people in the martial arts school, including Albert, the old housekeeper, to practice shooting skills. After all, although the kung fu of several boxers is powerful, they can't deal with guns even with empty hands. However, with their skill, superior agility, and reaction, they can kill people with guns. As for old Albert, Chenmo thinks it's always good to have more self-protection ability. He hopes everyone around him can at least have the ability to protect himself. Old Albert didn't resist this. On the contrary, he practiced more seriously than the other four because he felt that he could help Chenmo when he needed to. It's Huang Quan. Although they practice well at Chenmo's request, they still pay more attention to their own kung fu. They usually don't take guns with them. They put them in the room on the second floor. They only take them out when they practice. "Gone." Wang Kun's voice trembled, his hands clenched tightly. "I just got home and my wife and children are gone." Wang Kun looks at the old housekeeper and looks excited. "There's only one note left in the room. Let me go to the dock alone tonight to get someone." Old Albert nodded his head gravely. "It's been half a year since the young master left. It seems that someone has hit us again." Of the four boxers, the other three had no family or their relatives had died in the war. Only Wang Kun's wife and son were still around. When he came to the martial arts school, his life was guaranteed. Wang Kun rented a house nearby. The family of three had a good life. Every night his wife will prepare dinner early and wait for him to go back. But today when he hurried home, he found that the family was in a mess and his wife and children were gone. There is only a note left on the table. "Let him go to Pier 6 alone tonight to redeem people, or he will wait for his wife and children to collect the body." "What now?" The youngest Han Qing looked at several people and asked, "Of course, kill these grandchildren and save people." Chapter 27. The irascible Luo Zhen shouted angrily, "Dare to move the people of our martial arts school, I think they are tired of living." How to save it, that's it. What if they tear up the tickets directly? The oldest Huang Quan asked in a deep voice, "And the wharf is so big, do you know where they hide?" That can't just wait. Who knows what they're going to do to people? It will be late at night. Luo Zhen is urgent way, always can't let Wang Kun go alone really. Wang Kun clenched his fists tighter when he heard the words. A pair of red tiger eyes wanted to choose someone to eat. Now I can only go alone. Anyway, I must save them. No way, Albert stopped. You are going to die. These people are obviously coming to the martial arts school. They want to break each other. Albert stopped the excited Wang Kun, pressed his shoulder and said, "There must be an ambush set up on the wharf now so you can go and catch yourself." "What should I do then?" Wang Kun asked in a helpless way. In fact, he didn't know how dangerous it was, but his family was in each other's hands. What else could he do except to fight and risk? If only the owner were here. Han Qing can't help but think of Chen Mo. He must have a way. A few people listen to all cannot help in front of a bright, then dimmed down. The owner of the museum is far away in Europe, even if no, for a while also can't reach. The atmosphere fell into silence for a moment. At this time, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in the ears of all people. I seem to hear that someone just said I was behind my back. Several people hurriedly turned to look at the door. Wang Kun pushed the door open, but before the door could be closed, a tall and huge figure stood quietly, with a cold face, sharp eyes, and a strong murderous spirit. All the people in the martial arts school felt a strong sense of peace, as if the boat was finally in the wind and rain it depends. The owner, young master, you are back at last. Chen Mo is so excited to see people. He can't help being strange. Although I have been away for half a year, I don't need to think about me like this, do I? What happened? Asked Chen Mo as he walked in, revealing Howard behind him. Howard looked around curiously at the furnishings in the martial arts school, followed Chen Mo to the sofa and sat down. Seeing the backbone, several people's hearts became firm. Old Albert told Chen Mo about the situation. Then they looked at Chen Mo expectantly and waited for him to make an idea. Chen Mo listens to Albert finish, saying, "In the eye kills an opportunity not to be able to help but one Sheng." Nearby several people only feel the air seem to suddenly cool down. Although he is far away in Europe, Chen Mo has been mastering the situation in New York through Hydra. In his absence, the mafia in Brooklyn began to be uneasy again. According to the information of Hydra, as early as half a month ago, the two major mafia families in Brooklyn began to take action. With Tony's lesson from the last Mad Dog, the two families did not dare to act rashly, but they secretly encouraged other forces behind their backs to fight against the martial arts school, which is one of the reasons why he came back this time. This kidnapping is to test the reality of the martial arts school. By the way, we can take the opportunity to solve a powerful force. Chen Mo blames himself. He is very clear about the mafia's changes, but he only thinks that the other side will attack the martial arts school. He has made arrangements for this. Not to mention the Huang Quan people in the martial arts school, the nine-headed snake agent he arranged around the martial arts school is enough to eliminate any enemies. Of course, these are the backhand, which will not be exposed easily until the last resort. With Albert's composure, 4 boxers' skills and shooting skills, and Chen Mo's weapons and equipment, most situations can be easily dealt with. But what Chen Mo didn't expect was that the other side would attack Wang Kun's family, which was ignored by Chen Mo. He started from his own point of view, thinking that they would directly attack the martial arts school, but he didn't consider the bottom line of these low-level gangs. This is a wake-up call for Chen Mo. The protection of people around him must be meticulous and never let go of any place that may be attacked. At the same time, Chen Mo also secretly rejoiced that he had come back early and had no irreversible consequences. Thinking of this, Chen Mo looks up at the old housekeeper and asks, "Eddie, if I don't come back, what are you going to do?" Old Albert, hearing this, unbuttoned his suit, put his hands under his arms and drew out 2 pistols. "When it's dark, sneak into the dock and save people first." With both guns in hand, Albert's temperament changed. "Then kill them all. It's true that he has been around for a long time. Under his influence, the whole person has changed a lot. Sheng Sheng has changed from an old wenking who is engaged in art to an elegant gentleman and a hot-blooded and violent trump card agent." Chen Mo can't help but look at Albert carefully. This is the first time he has seen such a tough side of him. Unexpectedly, Eddie has a blood and belligerent gene in his bones. Satisfied nodded, Chen Mo rose from the sofa. "What are you waiting for? Copy the guy." Hearing this, Huang Quan and several others rushed upstairs to get guns. They didn't love guns as much as Albert did. They kept guns all day long. When they arrived at Qi under the leadership of Chen Mo, a group of people stormed toward the door. Just then, a weak voice sounded. "Well, can you take me with you?" Howard, who was ignored all the way, asked expectantly, "I'm good at shooting." Although he has been engaged in research, Howard is also eager to fight in his heart, but the risk in the battlefield is too great. For his own small life, he rationally gave up to die in the battlefield. But just now, I heard Chen Mo's old housekeeper tell me that they seem to be trying to save people from the gang. This small-scale fight opportunity makes Howard eager to try. He knows Chen Mo's strength. With his escort, there must be no problem, just fight as much as you can. Howard wanted to wait in the martial arts school, but he nodded at the eager look on his face. "Well, wait a minute." Chen Mo then turned and went upstairs. After a while, he came down with a pile of things in his arms. Bang! With a sound of heavy objects falling to the ground, Chen Mo threw his hands on the ground, and people only felt that the floor shook violently twice. A few people curiously approached. Howard picked up one and looked at it. He looked up curiously and asked Chen Mo, "Isn't this your bulletproof armor?" Before Howard continued to ask why there was such a thing in the martial arts school, Chen Mo waved to several people and urged them to change it quickly. "Let's start at once." Chapter 28. Although Albert and Huang Quan wondered when there were so many strange clothes in the martial arts school, they took one and put it on. These are the weakened version of the bulletproof armor used by the special forces. Chen Mo has put several pieces in the space, which he intended to bring back to them. Originally, Chen Mo was going to take it out near the wharf and let Huang Quan replace it. They didn't ask more about Chen Mo's special means, but since Howard didn't want to go either, he had to take it out now. The weight of tens of kilograms is nothing to Huang Quan's 4 people, that is, old Albert. Although he is over 60 years old, he often works out with Chen Mo and Huang Quan. He is strong and has no big problems. Instead, Howard, who lacks exercise, can't bear the weight. "Can I not wear it? It's too heavy. It will affect my fight." Howard holds a suit of armor and stares at Chen Mo. "Yes." Chen Mo helped the old housekeeper put on bulletproof armor and said, "Then you can wait at home. We will be back in a moment." "No, can't I wear it?" Howard said with a grudge on his face. After a while, several people put on the bulletproof armor. A black bulletproof fiber-tight clothing is inlaid with a piece of armor with distinct edges and corners and protuberances, which protects almost all the critical parts of the whole body. There are several independent splicing armor at the joints of knees, shoulders, and elbows, which not only ensures strict protection, but also does not affect the flexibility of activities. Wearing the powerful bulletproof armor, everyone looks majestic and attractive. At this time, Chen Mo didn't know where to get a pile of black battle suits for everyone to wear outside and sneak into the battle. It's better to keep a low profile. After all the people were dressed, Chen Mo had already changed into a black combat suit. A M1911 pistol was inserted in the holster beside his legs, and a throwing knife was inserted in his waist. He glanced at the ready people. Chen Mo handed Howard a pistol and turned to the door. Go. It's dark at Pier 6. The workers in the pier have already come home from work. There are only a few yellow lights in the whole pier. Chen Mo and his group of 7 were hiding in a hidden corner opposite the wharf. After carefully observing the situation near the wharf, Chen Mo, with his keen senses, found that someone was hiding in the dark at the entrance of the wharf, who should be the gang members they were looking for. After confirming that there is only one person at the door, Chen Mo is ready for action. You wait here first. After that, Chen Mo quickly left the hiding place and quietly walked to the side of the gate from the side. The secret whistle Chen Mo found was right behind the wall. After listening attentively and confirming his position, Chen Mo jumped over the wall and went in. After a while, Chen Mo leaned out of the door and waved to them. Albert hurriedly and quietly ran past. Number 6 wharf is a small wharf. No one has been there for a long time. Chen Mo listens attentively. The whole wharf is silent. Only the warehouse area in the distance is quiet. Beckoning a few people to follow, Chen Mo takes the lead and rushes to the warehouse area. Although the wharf is not big, there are many warehouses in the warehouse area. Chen Mo takes a few people to feel the location. Along the way, he found 2 gangsters who were looking forward to the wind. Chen Mo threw a throwing knife far away, and the other side was solved before he found it. At a corner, Chen Mo stops. Careful probe to see an old warehouse appeared in front of Chen Mo. The door guards a few gunmen that they find the right place. Chen Mo then quietly went to the warehouse to investigate the situation. After returning, he said in a low voice, "This is the exit of the warehouse. You are here to watch. When you hear the gunshot, you will shoot. All the people who come out will be killed." "Do you understand?" "I understand." Everyone nodded. As soon as he heard that he was going to fight, Howard was excited, but he was still confused. "What about you?" "I'll go in and help." Chen Mo then quietly stepped forward, avoiding the sight of the gunman at the door, climbed up the roof of the warehouse from the side, and carefully watched the tiles under his feet. Chen Mo slowly moved to the top of the roof without making a sound. Slowly squatting down, Chen Mo uncovers the tiles in front of him and looks into the warehouse. A woman and a child were tied to the pillar in the middle of the warehouse. Their mouths were blocked and their faces were full of tears. It was Wang Kun's wife and children. Although they were scared, they didn't seem to be hurt. Chen Mo's heart was relieved to see that. Fortunately, they were okay, otherwise he would feel guilty. As soon as his eyes turned, Chen Mo looked at the gang members in the warehouse with murderous eyes. As expected, this is indeed a trap. On the surface, except for Wang Kun's kidnapped wife and children, there are only 2 people guarding the hostage, but in the corner around the warehouse, there are more than 20 gunmen hidden in the dark. If Wang Kun really comes alone, it will be more or less bad. Chen Mo can't help but be afraid. Fortunately, he came back in time. At the same time, he told himself again that he should not despise the enemy and eliminate the threat in the bud. If we had known that the 2 families were restless and encouraged other forces to attack the martial arts school, we would have killed them all. How could we let his family experience this crisis? Fortunately, it's not too late to kill now. Chen Mo's eyes flashed, and 2 throwing knives shot at the 2 people standing in the field. The 2 people who were together and didn't know what they were talking about felt that their brains hurt, so they didn't know anything. Without waiting for their bodies to fall to the ground, Chen Mo directly stepped on the roof and jumped down. Chen Mo grabs the rope that binds the 2 of them and rushes to a corner. He kicks out a gunman hiding here, smashes the body with sunken chest on the wall and falls to the ground. The mother and son were shocked by what happened suddenly. Wang Kun's wife didn't react until they saw Chen Mo's face clearly. The owner. As if the desperate encounter of a savior, a woman's voice is full of surprises. "Well, stay here with the children." After Chen Mo finished speaking, he went out from the corner again. At this time, the other gunmen just reflected and rushed out of the hiding place. Seeing Chen Mo suddenly appeared, Chi pointed at him. "Boy, who are you?" asked a fierce man who appeared to be the leader. Facing each other's questioning, Chen Mo smiled coldly and slowly pulled out the pistol inserted in the holster on both sides of his thigh. Chapter 29. The man who tied up my martial arts school asked me who I was. The leading man was puzzled for a while, and then he was shocked. "It's you. Why are you back?" They have heard about Chen Mo's deeds. Apart from the clandestine agitation of the two families, the reason why they dare to fight against the martial arts school is that Chen Mo joined the army and was far away in Europe. It is impossible to come back in a short time. At present, the interests put Chen Mo's threat behind. On the way, it is well known that Chen Mo brought a lot of wealth from China, all of which are hidden in the martial arts school. Many forces have focused on this place, but Chen Mo's power is still there, and the strength of the four King Kong in the martial arts school cannot be underestimated, so most people are still waiting. When he learned that one of the four boxers' families lived near the martial arts school, he thought of this wonderful idea. First, he used his family to lead an ambush to kill him. He didn't believe that more than 20 guns could not kill a master. After that, the martial arts school would be in chaos, and then the chance would come. But whoever thought that they were most afraid that Chen Mo, who dared to start when he was not there, suddenly appeared in front of him. The leading man only felt his back was cold, as if he had smelled the smell of death. How did Tony, the mad dog, die? He was very clear. Would he follow his example? He doesn't want to die. The desire to survive made him temporarily suppress the fear in his heart. Are you not afraid of bullets even if you are more powerful? Think of here, the man's face cannot help flashing a ferocious, "Shoot him for me." A group of people shot at Chen from different angles. Seeing that Chen Mo is going to die in his own hands, the leading man can't help but show a smile on the corner of his mouth and kill Chen Mo, who everyone is afraid of. His position in the road will rise greatly. Then there will be 3 families in Brooklyn. He was thinking of his dream, but suddenly found Chen Mo's figure in a flash, disappeared in place. All the bullets were shot in the air, not even his corner. How could it be? It is beyond his imagination that a man should be able to dodge bullets. A group of people began to panic. What kind of enemy is this? The bullets can't be hit. Without giving them the chance to continue to be horrified, Chen Mo dodged the bullet and started to fight back. As more than 20 people were distributed around the warehouse, Chen Mo could not kill them all for a while, and he could only dodge and shoot at the same time. The first shot Chen Mo aimed at the leading man, who made him stand out. A bullet directly hit his eyeball, shot into his brain, and then shot out with a big hole in the back of his brain. The mixed red and white brains and blood donations splashed the young brother beside him. Just at the beginning of the battle, the leader of his own side was killed by the explosion of his head. A group of gunmen were stunned and then began to shoot at Chen Mo's position crazily. As Chen Mo dodged the bullets, he called on the gunmen who were standing in place and firing wildly. Seeing his brothers fall down one by one, the enemy is unhurt under their firepower. When Chen Mo kills most of his men, the rest of the gunmen finally collapse. If they can't fight, they can only run. The completely collapsed gunmen gave up the attack completely and ran to the warehouse gate in a swarm. Chen Mo's gunfire was still ringing behind them. They only hoped that they could run faster and let their brothers behind them back up. Originally, all the gunmen scattered in all corners rushed to the gate. Chen Mo was more convenient now. He didn't need to dodge. He just aimed at shooting directly. When 10 or so people rushed to the door, there was only one left. The fastest-running lucky man rushed out of the warehouse gate recklessly, only to find several cold bodies lying on the ground at the gate. The guard's brothers didn't know when they had been killed. He looked up in a cold sweat, only to see 6 men in the same black combat suit as Chen Mo who were waiting for him. Chi aimed his gun at him. Bang, bang, bang. There was a sound of guns, and there was another dead body on the ground. At the moment when the gunshots rang out in the warehouse, they suddenly launched an attack and shot all the guards at the door. Then they obeyed Chen Mo's orders and guarded here. Unexpectedly, The fierce gunshots in the warehouse rang for a long time before such a person ran out. With the fall of the last man, the gunshot stopped completely. After a while, Chen Mo led the two men out. Without mentioning Wang Kun's family embracing and comforting each other, Howard came to Chen Mo and asked, "This is over." "Otherwise," White Howard a look, Chen Mo did not good gas said, "Why don't you leave us more? I fired too." Howard was going to do a big job, but he only shot twice at the door and the fight was over. "Be content, this one is left to you by me." Looking at Howard's discontent, Chen Mo seriously doubts whether he is a murderer. "Many more can I leave for you later. How many do you want, 10 or 20? Howard was stunned when he heard that. For a moment, "Didn't we get people out? You killed all the kidnappers. How can you return 10 or 20? Chen Mo's eyes flashed coldly. "These are just a group of idiots who are being shot. The real behind this is the two mafia families. Tonight, I'm going to blood wash Brooklyn." Howard was not afraid, but excited. "Good. These bastards should have been cleaned up long ago, but the government has been conniving at them. Then let Shandong Bureau solve these cancer that endangers society. Kill them all tonight." Chen Mo looks at the excited Howard strangely. Now he can be sure that under the appearance of Howard, there is a cynical and aggressive heart. However, Chen Mo is relieved to think of Howard's other identity. Don't forget that Howard is the largest arms dealer in the United States, and his laboratories are full of all kinds of new weapons. It's impossible to say that he is a war fighter, but in normal times, everyone is hoodwinked by his appearance and inventor's identity. "Why didn't I find you so belligerent before?" Chen Mo looks at Howard thoughtfully. "Why don't you come first?" "I'm a hot-blooded young man, too," Howard said boldly, and his tone changed. "Besides, aren't you here? Ha ha. You are the commander of our special team of Shandong Bureau, the invincible super fighter, and the nine-headed snake is not your opponent. There are only a few mafia organizations which are not easy for you to catch." Chapter 30. Howard touted Chen Mo and finally said his real purpose. "I'm a scientist, just follow me." Howard is very careful about his own life. With Chen Mo as a powerful fighter, he is willing to fight with the wind. He is really willing to fight in front of him. He knows what he is going to do. Hearing this, Chen Mo nodded and added another sentence in his heart, "A militant who is afraid of death." Without paying any more attention to Howard, Chen Mo looked at Wang Kun's comfort and said to him, "Wang Kun, first send your wife and children back to the martial arts school and then let them move in." "Yes, thank you." Wang Kun is very happy to hear this. After this incident, he dare not let his wife and children stay outside alone. He is thinking about how to do it. Chen Mo's words completely solve his worries. "I didn't think about it before. If I had let them move here earlier, I wouldn't have today's event," Chen Mo said reproachfully. "Don't say that, librarian, you are good enough for us," Wang Kun said in a hurry. Chen Mo waved. "Okay, you go back to the martial arts school first." "Who are you?" Wang Kun doubts. "Let's go to Green Street." Green Street is one of the two major mafia families where the Lucian family is located. "Tonight, I'm going to get rid of these threats." Wang Kun hears the words and understands that Chen Mo wants to wipe out the two families completely. Some hesitated to look at his wife and children. Wang Kun immediately made up his mind, turned his head and said firmly to Chen Mo, "I'll go too, librarian." Looking at Wang Kun's firm eyes, Chen Mo nodded with satisfaction. "Okay. Then you take them back first and we'll meet at Green Street later. Don't worry, the martial arts school is very safe. No one can hurt them." Chen Mo patted Wang Kun on the shoulder and solemnly promised. Around the martial arts school, Chen Mo has arranged elite nine-headed snake agents to guard secretly. Ordinary gangs can't break through their defense at all, which is enough to ensure the safety of people in the martial arts school. Wang Kun has long experienced his master's broad mind and blind trust in Chen Mo. Seeing that he said so, knowing what arrangements Chen Mo must have, he gave up his mind completely, nodded heavily and put them back into the martial arts school with his family. Half an hour later, the group joined at Green Street. This time, without the threat of hostages, We don't need to worry so much." To deal with a small mafia family, Chenmo decided to attack directly. Seeing that everyone was ready, Chenmo nodded and headed directly to the gate of Lucian family headquarters. They followed closely, striding, one by one holding the guns in their hands, their eyes full of murderous. The headquarters of the Lucian family is a huge luxury house. In the gate of the iron fence, two guards, by means of the dim yellow street lights, found Chenmo and his party, who were in a fierce stride. As soon as they were ready to speak out, they saw that the tall figure walking in front of them drew out two pistols and pointed at them in an instant at an extremely fast speed. They didn't wait for them to make more reactions. They saw that the opposite muzzle of the gun lit up two lights in an instant, and the two guards only felt the darkness in front of them, and then they lost their consciousness completely. Chenmo shot the two guards with two guns, then stepped to the front of the gate, raised his right leg and kicked heavily on the iron gate. Bang! There was a loud crash. The roaring leg shadow, carrying the huge force, directly kicked the solid iron gate into the yard. Chenmo walked into the headquarters of the Lucian family with a cold face. Several people behind him, while admiring Chenmo's terror, followed him quickly. At this time, the people in the headquarters had been alarmed by the gunfire of Chen Magang. Several guards in the yard just rushed over, looked at the two iron doors smashed on the grass, and could not help but swallow their saliva. When they look up again, they are greeted by a piece of straight to their muzzle. Bang! 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 After a sound of guns, several guards in the yard were wiped out in an instant. Sweeping the empty yard, Chenmo took several people directly into the open door on the first floor. In the headquarters of Lucian family, there are very luxurious, ancient and solemn large oil paintings, gorgeous European-style solid wood furniture, smooth marble paved hall ground, standing 8 tall Roman stone columns, and huge and exquisite crystal chandeliers shining the hall on the first floor as if it were day. Magnificent and magnificent. 2 gorgeous arc-shaped stairs incline down from both sides of the second floor, forming a broad and gorgeous staircase directly opposite the gate, extending to the floor of the hall. Under the brilliant light of crystal chandelier, the bright marble reflects the brilliance of Wei Li. At this time, several members of the mafia in the hall were about to go out to check when they heard the gunshots just outside. When they saw Chenmo, who suddenly broke in, they immediately took out their guns and wanted to shoot. But before they could pull the trigger, Chenmo, who responded faster than them, had already fired first. Several of them had several guns in their bodies and could not afford to fall to the ground. Chenmo emptied the enemies in the hall at an extremely fast speed. Instead of rushing upstairs, he asked Howard to find cover and prepare for the battle. Chenmo could hear the sound of disordered footsteps on the top of the stairs. Obviously, more people were shocked by the gunfire and were coming to the hall. According to Chenmo's information, there are more than 50 people in Lucian family headquarters. Apart from a large number of pistols, there are also a certain number of shotguns and Thompson submachine guns. In addition, there are no heavy weapons that can pose a threat to Chenmo. The bulletproof armor of Howard's, several people can easily resist the attack of these weapons, as long as it is not just by accident the bullet hit the head and did not take any damage. Each of them found cover, raised their guns, and pointed to the top of the stairs. Howard followed Chenmo closely. He knew that only Chenmo was the safest. He knew Howard's caution as well as his fingers. Chenmo gave him a helpless look and ignored his fear of death. Before long, a group of armed mafia ran down the stairs. "Fire!" Chenmo murmurs. Several men who had already aimed their guns pulled the trigger in unison. Bang, 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 bang. The mafia who had just rushed down was caught by surprise. Several people were directly shot in the head. Their bodies, which were still running, rolled down the stairs directly. The first mafia, unprepared, received a wave of bullets from the front and lay down several times as soon as they saw each other. Chapter 31. The rest of them squatted down and hid behind the handrails of the stairs. The gorgeous and strong marble railings blocked some bullets for them. However, from time to time, some people were hit by bullets shot into the gap, and the mafia were completely suppressed there, unable to raise their heads for a while, unable to fight back. But soon, wave after wave of mafia ran down the second floor and attacked Chen Mo and them under the cover of stairs. Although Howard's men kept killing the reckless enemies, there were more and more gunmen gathered on the stairs. They hid behind their covers and fought fiercely with the mafia on the opposite side. Sushita rises up. Howard, who is afraid of death, moves out from behind Chen Mo, stands in the field and shoots at the stairs. His eyes flash with excitement. Everyone hid behind the shelter and shot. Howard suddenly came out and attracted the attention of several mafia. A strong man with a double-barrel shotgun saw this and immediately moved the muzzle to point at Howard. Bang! With a sound, there was a flash of fire in the muzzle of the gun. A dozen lead bullets loaded in the number 20 hunting bullet were scattered into a small piece, and they were hitting Howard's chest and abdomen. The huge impact force directly lifted him out. Howard, who fell to the ground, grinned. The moment when he was hit by the shotgun, he felt as if he had been hit by more than 10 punches at the same time, which made his bones ache. Too late to lament the powerful defense of bulletproof armor, Howard rolled several times in a row and hid behind a pile of sofas, strong and heavy solid wood enough to withstand the attack of these small-caliber bullets. The strong man who hit Howard just now stared at Howard as if he was a stranger. He doubted whether he had filled in the wrong rubber bullet just now. Before he could raise his gun again, a bullet from the corner shot his head. There are more and more gunmen rushing down the second floor, and people in the martial arts school are gradually suppressed. They can only hide behind the corner, pillars and other shelters, and lean out their heads to fight back when the firepower becomes weak. In fact, with Chen Mo's strength, a person can quickly kill all these gunmen, but he hides in the corner of the hall and rarely shoots. Most of Chen Mo's attention is focused on Albert. When they stick their heads out from behind the shelter and are exposed to the fire from the opposite side, Chen Mo will pay close attention to the point of the other side's muzzle. When their heads are aimed, Chen Mo's bullets will take the first step and directly kill the threatening gunman. As for Howard's shot, as long as it's not attacking the head, Chen Mo doesn't care about the non-lethal attack. He is not in a hurry to end the battle. It is rare for martial arts school people to have a chance to participate in the actual battle. Just take this opportunity to exercise them. The real gun battle is the fastest growing way. There was Chen Mo's secret care. Although several people were hit by the pressure on the opposite side, they were not in danger of life. Occasionally, a bullet hit them. It just felt like they were hit by someone, but the place where they were shot was not damaged. But their shooting skills were not weak. Although they were suppressed by the dense bullets on the opposite side, and the attack firepower weakened a lot, they were still killing the enemies upstairs. With the continuation of the fierce gunfight, the broad and gorgeous stairs were gradually filled with the bodies of the mafia members who had been shot dead. There are fewer and fewer people rushing down the stairs, but more and more people are killed. The mafia gunmen face these fierce enemies, though they are not large in number, but they still have the advantage in number, but their momentum is gradually weakened. In such a fierce gunfight, one side of himself was killed and wounded heavily, while the other side suffered no casualties. I felt that the number of companions around me was gradually reduced, and the rest of the people could not help but feel frightened, and the firepower was also weakened. Huang Quan hid behind a huge marble column and quickly changed his cartridge clips. In the fierce fighting just now, he killed at least 5 enemies with his keen reaction and precise shooting. After replacing the cartridge clips, Huang Quan keenly felt that the bullets on the marble post behind him were obviously sparse, and did not waste this opportunity. Huang Quan immediately flashed out, aiming at the enemies on the opposite stairs with both hands and guns, and quickly pulled the trigger. The first catapult hit the marble handrail of the stairs, breaking the smooth and gorgeous marble into a gap. A second bullet followed through the gap in the armrest and into the chest of a mafia hiding behind. Two guns killed an enemy, Huang Quan, then a flash, once again hiding behind the marble column. A burst of dense bullets also followed. The stone column hit stone chips flying. Han Qing, Wang Kun, and Luo Zhen were not idle either. They also seized the opportunity of the enemy's firepower weakening and shot out one enemy after another. However, old Albert's performance was a little eye-catching. He was hiding at the corner of the wall on one side of the hall, leaning against the wall with his back, holding a pistol in both hands on the ear side, and there was a cold, murderous air on his elegant and calm face. Taking advantage of the gap between the weakened firepower, he directly turned around and flashed back. His hand stretched forward with the rotation of his body. With sharp eyes, he firmly locked the enemy on the opposite stairs. Two pistols were fired almost at the same time. Under the impetus of the explosive gunpowder, the two bullets rushed out of the chamber in unison and shot towards the stairs at high speed. On the stairs, two mafia members were standing in front of the handrail, carrying two Thompson submachine gun, pouring bullets down their faces. Poof. Poof, two bullets into the flesh sound. Two people's chest each splash a blood flower, stuffy hum, cannot afford to fall. Albert's hands kept swinging, aiming and shooting, while his feet kept moving quickly to the marble column on one side. Albert can be said to be the best shot except for Chen Mo. The mafia on the opposite side fell down one after another after two shots were fired. However, the counterattack of the other side hit him, but only made his body slightly stagnant. When he hid behind the stone pillar again, the bullet in the gun just shot out. The vigorous body and calm demeanor make Chen Mo, who has always been paying attention to the battlefield, nod in secret. He can't help but think of Harry, an old agent with superb skills and elegant gentleman in Agent Trump. As for Howard, who was belligerent but afraid of death, he hid behind a pile of heavy solid wood sofas and shot at the top through the gap. The place he chose was rather tricky. It was difficult for the gunman on the opposite stairs to aim at him, so he kept hiding there and kept shooting excitedly. The number of enemies killed was no less than that of old Albert. A mafia gunman on the stairs noticed Howard hiding behind the sofa and quietly pointed his gun at him. Howard, who thinks he's hiding well, is still shooting with a gun. The target of the pistol firmly locked Howard's exposed head in the gap of the sofa, put his finger on the trigger, and a grim smile appeared on the gunman's face. He was confident that with his own shooting method, the gun would surely pass through the obstacles and kill Howard on the spot. Chapter 32. At the moment when he was ready to pull the trigger, a bullet suddenly shot out of a corner of the hall downstairs, directly from his eyes, bringing out a large splash of brain and blood at the back of his head. There are not many people left on the mafia side. Several more have fallen in this wave of attacks. The number advantage is getting smaller and smaller, and the firepower is completely diluted. All the people in the martial arts school saw that they were simply defending to attack. They all stood out from their hiding places and directly used intensive and precise firepower to fight the mafia in the opposite direction. The situation was completely reversed. Then there was the one-sided massacre. After a series of gunshots, the mafia on the stairs were all killed. Dozens of bodies filled the stairs. The red blood slowly flowed down the stairs, converging on the smooth marble floor of the hall like a bright red carpet. After all the enemies were killed, they were all fluffy, and a strong sense of fatigue came up. They sat down one by one, leaning against the stone pillars and walls. Just now, in the fierce battle of high intensity, several people were highly concentrated in their spirit, coupled with the continuous operation of bulletproof armor weighing several kilograms. All of them were tired and nearly collapsed. Looking at the people sitting on the ground, Chenmo was satisfied with their performance just now, but he relaxed just after he had wiped out the enemy in front of him, which was fatal in the battle. "Stand up for me," Chenmo snapped. "The battle is not over. If there is another wave of enemies at this time, how many are you going to be killed?" A few people smell speech in the heart to be surprised, hurriedly stood up. To oneself just relaxed vigilance easily also is secretly self-reproach. Chenmo sighs in his heart that he is still a group of novices who haven't been to the battlefield. They are seriously lack of practical experience. It seems that they must practice hard tonight. There shouldn't be many people left upstairs. Are you going to rest here or go up with me? Chenmo looked at the exhausted people and asked casually. "We can do it," Huang Quan's four answered loudly. Although their physical strength was very heavy, their eyes were a little brighter than before. They were more fierce and aggressive. Old Albert wiped the sweat on his forehead, took out his pistol again and looked at Chenmo firmly. The old housekeeper nodded slowly and Chenmo looked at Howard again. He didn't know that he had just turned around in front of the gate. At this time he was still excited, although his tired face was red and his back was soaked with sweat. Seeing Chenmo looking at him, he said excitedly, "Look what I'm doing. I haven't played enough. It was so exciting just now." "Go, I can fight another 100. Said draw out the pistol, a face of morale, kill them and have a rest no later. Chenmo felt that Howard was a little overexcited. He was timid and scared to die before. As a result, he really fought to death. He had the potential to fight a madman. There was no adverse reaction after killing. Huang Quan and Wang Kun, as martial arts practitioners, have had several lives in that chaotic world. Old Albert has experienced too much. He has long looked down on life and death and has strong psychological quality. However, Howard, a scientist who lives in the laboratory all day long, even killed people by himself. Facing the corpses everywhere, Chenmo can only explain that he was born a war maniac. Seeing that several people were willing to continue fighting, Chenmo nodded contentedly and took several people upstairs. The stairs were covered with the bodies of the mafia they had killed. The blood from the stairs dyed them red. The whole stairs became slippery and difficult to walk. Carefully step over the body on the steps, step by step up to the second floor. At this time, the second floor is very quiet and no one is seen. Chen Muring listens for a while and takes several people directly upstairs. In a luxurious office on the third floor, Floyd Lucien, the leader of the Lucien family, who controls most of the underground forces in Brooklyn, is sitting behind a large solid wood desk in a straight suit. His gray hair is neatly combed to the back of his head. He has a huge Cuban cigar in his hand, but he has not lit it. For a while there was a fierce gunshot downstairs, but there was no sign of stopping. Freud was uneasy. Who will break into the headquarters of their Lucien family at this time, and who has the ability to fight with dozens of elite gunmen under him without losing? The Frelly family. It's impossible. The two Brooklyn families have the same strength. If they go into each other's headquarters, they will only lose both sides and be picked up by other forces. People in government. It's impossible for the family to spend a lot of money every year to run up and down. Those in power have been fed by them for a long time. It's impossible for them to have no news at all. Moreover, if the government is really going to fight against them, his people can't stand the crush of the state violence machine. Thinking of their actions in this period of time, a mysterious and powerful figure appeared in his mind. Is it him? Yes, he must be back. It's the same as the last time when he killed Tony the mad dog, but the last time he sneaked into the assassin alone. This time he took a helper to attack hard. As far as he knows, several fighters in the martial arts school are not weak. The more you think about it, 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 the more you think about it. How does he know about our secret actions? Although they have been encouraging some small forces to fight against the martial arts school, they are good at collecting profits from the back. but the whole process is very secret. After that, they are prepared to kill all the forces and kill people. Even if Chen Mo comes back later, they can't be found at all. They don't think Chen Mo will know their little moves. Indeed, if Chen Mo is really just a rich man with strong fighting power, he may be kept in the dark. When he comes back to see the martial arts school destroyed, he can't find revenge on them, but he has a good calculation. Unfortunately, Chen Mo's Hydra Intelligence Department knows their every move very well. Chen Mo once again realized the benefits of the power. No matter how powerful he is, he can't do everything. There will always be places that he can't take into account. The power brought by the powerful power undoubted this. The only thing missing is that no one thought that the small forces instigated by the two clans would suddenly attack Wang Kun's family. In fact, they were also motivated temporarily. Chen Mo was on the plane when Hydra received the news. He couldn't get in touch with him at all. After getting off the plane, he took Howard to the Martial Arts Museum, and the intelligence personnel didn't report for the time being. Chapter 33. The special agent of Hydra arranged around the martial arts school also received the task of protecting the martial arts school secretly and eliminating the enemies. Without the order of Chen Mo, he would not act rashly. All of this can only be said to be coincidental. If Chen Mo is in Europe, he can also immediately receive intelligence and command Agent Hydra to rescue the hostages and eliminate the hidden dangers. Fortunately, Chen Mo came back in time, so he brought his own team to kill him. After all, if Agent Hydra cannot use it, it's better not to move, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. The sound of gunfire downstairs finally stopped, but after a long time, no one came in to pay back, and Freud's bad feeling grew stronger. Reaching for the cigar clipper on the table, Freud's hand trembled a little. He finished cutting the cigar for a while. Just as he picked up the match and was ready to light it, a sound of footsteps sounded in the corridor. Slowly approaching, Freud trembled in his heart and looked up at the door with complicated eyes. Footsteps outside the door, followed by the door of the office, was pushed open. 7 figures wearing the same black combat uniform strided in. "It's really you." At the moment of seeing Chen Mo, Freud's face changed. His cigar fell on the table and the whole person was sitting in the boss's chair. His face was as gray as a sheet. He knew that his family was finished, and so was he. Chen Mo looks at the man sitting behind the luxury desk and slowly raises his gun. He doesn't like nonsense. At this moment, there is no need to say more. Freud closed his eyes in despair, with a strong sense of regret in his heart. He clearly knew Chen Mo's terrible strength, and why he had to be smart enough to fight against the martial arts school. Unfortunately, it's too late. Although there was a pistol hidden under the table, Freud, who had a deep understanding of Chen Mo's strength, knew very well that the other side would not give him a chance to touch the gun at all. Chen Mo coldly pointed the muzzle of the gun to his forehead and looked at the last kingpin who was waiting for his death. Chen Mo had no pity. He had chosen all his own ways. Since he had chosen a wrong way to die, let's go all the way. Bang! That night, the headquarters of the 2 major mafia families in Brooklyn were swept by Chen Mo and his party, and the core members of the 2 families were almost destroyed. The underground forces in Brooklyn were greatly shaken, and the whole underground structure will face a reshuffle. At this time, Howard, with a cigar in his mouth, walked in behind Chen Mo excitedly. "What a thrill tonight! Ha ha! We're rich." As he spoke, he looked at Huang Quan's hands. Huang Quan and Han Qing are carrying a heavy suitcase to the martial arts school. The coffers of the 2 families were packed and moved back. The 2 families controlled the underground forces of Brooklyn for decades, and the accumulated wealth was an astronomical number. "No, I'm rich." Chen Mo's voice came coldly from the sofa. Howard quickly ran to the sofa and sat down. He said pleasantly, "Come on, I've done my best tonight." Chen Mo nodded and Howard's face flashed a smile. "Yes, you've got the most shots and you've got the most firepower, Most of the people I've killed are aiming at your head." Howard was embarrassed when he heard that. He knew that he was a little too excited tonight. If Chen Mo had not taken care of him, he would not have known how many times he had been killed. Seeing him sitting on the sofa and not talking, Chen Mo asked lightly, "Are you short of money?" Howard is the largest arms supplier in the United States. Stark Group has a market value of more than US $100 million. Although the wealth obtained from the two families is equal to half of his company, it doesn't make him lose his temper. The research of anti-gravity technology is too expensive, and the company's working capital is almost spent by me. Howard raised his head and looked at Chen Mo bitterly. "I'm much poorer than you now. Howard is not a pure businessman after all. His interest is more focused on the research and development of new technology. He can work in the laboratory for several days without eating or sleeping. He doesn't think about money at all. However, his research is the most expensive one. It's estimated that this time he didn't take it back, played a big game, and soon brought the company down. I know you still have a lot of money, or the mafia will stare at you. The doctor told me that you are paying for his experiment now. You can tell me whether to help or not." Howard said, holding up the cigar that he had brought from Freud, took a hard breath and slowly spit out, "If you don't help me, I'll only sell shares, and then there will be a group of troublesome shareholders nagging in my ear all the time." Imagine that picture, Howard's face unwilling, then look at Chen Mo expectantly. Howard is a technomaniac. He only set up Stark Group to transform his experimental results and make money for him to continue his research. All the shares of the whole group are in his own hands, so he can willfully spend the company's working capital almost all and have to sell shares. Chen Mo suspects that later all the shareholders of Stark Group came here. In Iron Man 1, Tony was raised by Obadiah's board of directors. Thanks to his father, he dug a hole for him early. Looking at Howard, who knew nothing about his sons going to die, Chen Mo leaned on the sofa. "Then you'd better sell the shares." The disappointment on Howard's face just emerged. Chen Mo continued, "I want 50%. Howard's eyes brightened when he heard that he had intended to save the emergency and turn around some money from Chen Mo, but this is not a long-term plan after all. It's probably sooner or later to sell shares. Compared with those investors who only have income in their eyes, selling shares to Chen Mo is completely acceptable, even a good thing." He and Chen Moping studied black technology together. Based on his understanding of Chen Moping, money didn't matter in his eyes at all. His participation would not affect the operation of the company. On the contrary, it would make him have a local tycoon and a research partner with similar aspirations. He didn't believe that when the research was at the critical stage, Chen would not go out if the money was not enough. "Good, this is what you said. The market value of the company is now more than $100 million. You can give me $50 million. Chapter 34. Howard nodded with a smile on his face, hoping to take Chen Mo's hand and kiss him. Now that he has money, the research on anti-gravity technology can continue. Chen Mo sniffed at his face and said quietly, "Yes, let Eddie hand over to you later." Looking at Chen Mo's indifferent appearance, it seems that what he just said is not a tens of millions of dollars of stock acquisition, but an ordinary shopping on the street. Howard couldn't help wondering about Chen Mo's financial resources. The thief approached him and asked in a low voice, "To be honest, how much money do you have? How about I sell you all the company?" "Okay, just send someone to talk to Eddie." Chen Mo doesn't care. As the backstage boss of Hydra, money is just a number to him. When making this identity at the beginning, Chen Mo prepared dozens of boxes of gold and jewelry to be true to life. He took all his possessions with a flourish and took a boat to America for refuge. In the eyes of the U.S. government, he is a real invisible millionaire. Chen Mo doesn't know how much money he has in his bank account. His finance has always been managed by Albert, the old housekeeper. Even if it's not enough, there are dozens of boxes of gold bars and jewels in the upstairs vault. It's more than enough to buy Howard's company. Howard doesn't mind buying it all if he really dares to sell it. No, I plan to leave it to my son in the future. Seeing Chen Mo's comer refused, he failed to find out Chen Mo's background and almost lost his family business. Howard simply didn't want to face the direct regret. You don't have a wife, where's your son? Chen murmured a look at him, disdaining his poor excuse. There will be, otherwise if you become my son's godfather, your half-share will be a gift for your future godson. When Howard found out that he didn't want to face, he was much more relaxed and decided not to face to the end. Howard, Chen Mo looked at him seriously. How come I didn't find you so shameless? Howard's eyes were turned white. Just now, seeing Chen Mo's serious, he thought he was going to say something important. Bai was happy for a long time. I'm your son's godfather. As for the meeting ceremony, I will prepare the best gift for him. I can't take the share of your broken company. You'd better work for me honestly. Howard looks at Chen Mo in disbelief. I changed my mind, Chen Mo said solemnly. You can't go back. We just said that. 50 million, 50%. It's such a fierce battle in Europe now that the military can't get enough orders for arms. When you buy the shares of the company, you'll have to wait to make money. Howard thought that Chen Mo was angry with his face and he planned to repent. He quickly advised him. Do you also mean to repent? Chen Mo glanced at him contemptuously, but Howard didn't care about it, as if the person who just turned against him was not him. I can pay, but not 50 million. Don't be so stingy. I'll make a joke with you. You can give me some of the gifts, your sword, shield, or anything. Seeing Howard's inflexibility and the flower, Chen Mo's eyes stared, and a murderous look shot into the past. Howard, a spirited man, quickly closed his mouth and pretended that nothing had happened. He was too familiar with this look. Chen Mo would look at him with this look before being beaten every time. If he didn't do something wrong, he would continue to die, and he would definitely be beaten fat. Seeing that Howard is finally honest, Chen Mo takes back his eyes and goes on. I've decided to buy 60% of your Stark Industrial Group. Do you want to sell it or not? 60%. Then I have become a part-time worker for you. No, don't do it. Howard shook his head repeatedly. Although he didn't care much about the company, he started it by himself and named it after his surname. He really intended to leave it to his son in the future. 52% of them were even. If Chen Mo occupied 60%, I would not be lower than him. Absolutely not. Don't do it. Chen Mo doesn't care. Originally, it doesn't matter how many shares he holds. He won't stay in the world for a long time, that is to say, he will do Howard a favor by the way. Just now, he was angry with his shameless appearance and didn't treat Chen Mo well. Well, we can discuss it again. If Chen Mo doesn't do it directly, Howard will be soft all of a sudden. He is really short of money now. If Chen Mo doesn't buy shares, he can only sell them to those profiteers on Wall Street who only have dollars in their eyes. It's not negotiable, sell or not, in a word. Chen Mo looks at Howard's face and feels uneasy. At last, he feels comfortable. Seeing Chen Mo's resolute attitude, Howard's mind turned sharply. On the one hand, he was an insidious and mercenary businessman, and on the other hand, he took money as waste paper. Chen Mo, who loved black technology as much as he did, weighed the advantages and disadvantages and finally bit his teeth. 60 is 60, but the name of the company cannot be changed. Howard's beloved toy was taken away by life. Chen Mo was in a good mood. Yes, then what should you call me now? Chen Mo nodded and looked at Howard with a thoughtful face. Howard saw Chen Mo and squeezed a sentence out of his teeth. Old, bored. In my heart I kept thinking bandits. Robber. Bully who took advantage of the fire. Howard also blamed himself in his heart. Just now he promised how good he would be. 50 million yuan came and all the problems were solved. Now it's better to have another boss on his head. That's the company I started. I was the boss just now, but now I'm someone else. Howard's heart is dripping. Chen Mo nodded his head with satisfaction. Seeing that Howard was almost taut, he gave him a sweet date. I won't interfere in the operation of the company. You can also do your research on the annual dividend. Howard's eyes lit up. What's more, if you can really have a son, although you are a bit out of your depth in this poor company, you can barely make do with it as a gift to my future godson. Wise boss. Howard's face changed at the moment when he heard the words, and his flattery made people wonder if the man who had just eaten Chen Mo was him. Don't worry, I will give you a son, Howard promised. Go away. Chen Mo kicks Howard to the ground. Huang Quan. Several people moved back and forth several times and finally moved all the money boxes upstairs. Chapter 35. Young master, I have made a preliminary inventory. It's about $40 million. When old Albert came back, he didn't even have time to rest. First, he led Wang Kun to move the spoils upstairs and put them away. By the way, he counted them roughly. Although he has been exercising for a long time, he is very strong, but after all, he is still a little too old to bear, and his face is very ugly after tossing about this night. Eddie, you're very tired tonight. Go to have a rest first. We'll talk about these things tomorrow. Seeing the old housekeeper's face tired, Chen Mo said with concern. The two families controlled casinos, brothels, wineries, and other industries in Brooklyn. During the Prohibition period, the profits from selling private alcohol were astronomical. Chen Mo was not surprised by the $40 million assets. Howard's eyes were shining. He didn't expect two mafia families in Brooklyn to have such a huge asset. The old housekeeper was really tired. After greeting them, he went back to the room to have a rest. Looking at Howard, who was shocked by the wealth of the two families, Chen Mo couldn't help sighing that he and the mafia were really offended. As soon as they came to this world, they were robbed by mafia elements and gained the first pot of gold in this world. Later, the road fee for the implementation of the first step plan was also contributed by the mafia. Finally, they successfully completed the plan and took control of Hydra. This time, I killed the two families directly. With their huge wealth accumulated over the years, I became the first shareholder of the company and the new boss of Howard Stark, the founder. The mafia has become his little treasury. Chen Murin really doesn't know if he should thank them, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, he has killed them now. Maybe he is their natural nemesis. Chen Mo turns to look at Howard, who has been robbed by himself. At this time, he is showing a look of yearning. In his heart, he is thinking about how to spend the large amount of money Chen Mo has invested. All the old equipment in the laboratory has been replaced with new ones. All the latest experimental instruments and equipment that were not enough money to buy before have been bought. A batch of rare metals, precious metals, and other raw materials needed for the experiment have been purchased. Buy 100 kg of each. It's a little bit less, just a ton. It's only a few million. It's not expensive. Use it first, not enough. What if all the money is spent? Isn't there Chen Mo, the super rich and the largest shareholder? Big deal to sell him all the company anyway. Finally returned to my son's hands. Howard's small abacus slapped. Howard never felt so rich. Although the market value of his Stark industry is over 100 million, most of them are fixed assets, and the real working capital available to him is less than 10 million. Compared with the huge consumption of his research on the anti-gravity technology and other black technologies, this money is nothing at all. If he opens it up, it will cost money like water and lose his family business in minutes. This is the key time of the experiment. The anti-gravity technology finally breaks through, confiscating his hands for a while and losing his family. Looking at Howard's saliva, Chen Mo shakes his head helplessly, the financial fan. The next day, all the underground forces in Brooklyn received a shocking message. The two major mafia families in Brooklyn were bloodwashed last night. The whole headquarters was bloodied, and there was no one living. The two clans that ruled the whole Brooklyn underground for decades were completely destroyed. Many people at first heard the news were unbelievable, even thought they had heard it wrong. And when they knew that the main culprit of the destruction of the two families was the martial arts school, everyone was silent. They think of Tony the Mad Dog and the legend of Chen Mo, the mysterious master of the martial arts school. How strong is this man? Is he still human? When more detailed information was presented to them, all of them could not help sweating, while secretly glad that they did not provoke him. Last night, more than 100 mafia members in Brooklyn were killed. According to the witness's description, there were only 7 people on the other side, and there were no casualties in the whole battle. What happened last night can be said to be a one-sided massacre. They were shocked by the amazing fighting power of the martial arts school. They asked themselves that if they were attacked last night, the result would not be different. They were deeply afraid of the martial arts school. It's hard to imagine how they managed to destroy 2 families with hundreds of elite gunmen by only 7 people. What struck them was that the martial arts school said this morning that all the leaders of Brooklyn forces would go to the headquarters of the original Lucian family at 7 o'clock tonight to attend the meeting. If they didn't get there, they would be responsible for the consequences. With the lessons of the 2 families, they dare not go even if they are not willing to. It can be imagined that if anyone really dares to ignore the rumors of the martial arts school and doesn't attend the meeting tonight, the bloody night last night will be staged again. In addition to their uneasy speculation about the content of the evening meeting, they dare not have any idea of resistance. That night, Lucian family headquarters. Frank and Anderson met at the door. They were old buddies. They had a fight when they were young. Later, they grew older and became friends. At this time, both of them were dignified and uneasy. They nodded to each other but did not speak. They turned and walked in side by side. 2 twisted iron gates lay quietly on the lawn, telling what happened here last night. They took a deep look at the gate destroyed by some inhuman force and walked into the hall. As soon as they came in, they smelled a faint smell of blood in their noses. The luxury hall in front of them was riddled with bullet marks, and the bright marble floor was faintly bloody. Walking on the stairs, the smell of blood becomes more thick. Obvious blood can be seen in the gap between the corners of the stairs. The stone handrail on one side is not the damaged face. Many columns are directly broken, and the rest is incomplete and full of cracks. The 2 men walked up the stairs with heavy steps. The 2 people with complicated mood could not help turning their heads to look at each other. In the eyes of each other they saw deep fear. Take back their eyes. They don't think much anymore. They go up to the 2nd floor and directly open the door of the conference room. They used to come to the meeting to discuss matters, distribute interests, and solve conflicts. But at that time, the owner here was Floyd. Think of here, 2 people's hearts cannot help but have a kind of feeling of rabbit death and fox sorrow. In the conference room, the leaders of Brooklyn's big and small forces are almost at the same time. The broad solid wood conference table is full of people on both sides, but the room is extremely quiet. The air seems to be a little stagnant, no one speaks, and the atmosphere is very depressed. Chapter 36. Frank and Anderson looked at each other, found a place to sit down, and looked at the empty chair on their eyes. Their pupils shrank and they fell into silence. The clock in the corridor rang 7 times, and Frank, who was thinking about it, woke up. It was 7 o'clock and it was time. Frank looked up at a group of leaders in the conference room. After they arrived, several people came in again and again. Frank looked carefully and found that all the leaders of the forces in Brooklyn had been present, without any absence. The deterrence of killing the 2 families in a night was not strong. A steady footstep sounded in the corridor outside the meeting room. Here it is. All of you were shocked and turned to the door of the conference room. Soon, 2 heavy solid wood doors were pushed open. A tall Chinese-American youth in a black suit strode in. His body was full of evil spirit, which seemed to come out of the dead mountains and blood sea. His cold face revealed boundless killing spirit. With his appearance, a strong and cold momentum suddenly enveloped the whole field, and everyone in the field felt only one breath stagnation. Under the pressure of this powerful momentum, even breathing was difficult. The leaders of a group of forces could not help but be secretly shocked. They are really fierce people who destroyed the two families overnight. The ferocious spirit of not being angry and powerful is frightening. Chen-mo sat down slowly in front of the chair at the top of the conference table with a cold face, and old Albert, who was behind him, walked to his side and stood with his hands down. He was dressed in a gray suit, elegant and elegant. His gray hair was neatly combed behind his head, and his eyes were calm and calm. All of them found Albert's existence. Just now, their hearts and minds were robbed by Chen-mo's momentum, but they did not find Albert, who was following him. Chen-mo sat proudly in the first place, his eyes as sharp as a knife sweeping towards all the people ahead. All the people here were swept by his sharp eyes. They felt cold all over. Their hearts seemed to be severely seized by others. They could not help but lower their heads and avoid Chen-mo's sight. In front of the conference table are the leaders of all the mafia forces in Brooklyn. Despite their suits, they look like gentlemen. In fact, each of them is made up of swords, guns, and bones step by step. Everyone's hands are covered with blood. But compared with Chen-mo's fierce spirit, their momentum is not worth mentioning. Glancing across the whole audience, no one dared to look at him. He nodded secretly in his heart. Chen-mo took back his sight and said slowly in a cold voice, "Everyone's here. No one seems to break the appointment." Chen-mo's voice sounded, and everyone raised their spirits and listened carefully. They were eager to know what Chen-mo came to them for. Now the mystery is finally coming out. It's good, but it saves me some time. Chen-mo's cold and plain words are full of murderous spirit in people's ears. As expected, the murderer intended to fight against those who could not come. Those who had hesitated to come before were very lucky and almost killed themselves. Last night, I will not say that the era of Brooklyn under the rule of the two families is over. From now on, the underground forces in Brooklyn will be controlled by the martial arts school. When Chen-mo said that, he looked up at the leaders of more than 10 forces sitting on both sides of the conference table. The underground forces are always respected by the strong. In the past, the two families were the most powerful, so they were both dependent on and ruled by them. Now that the two families have been killed, new rulers are bound to come into being. Most people have been prepared for this and have not responded much. They have self-knowledge of their own strength and know that they do not have the strength to command the whole underground forces in Brooklyn. But there are two people who quietly look up and look at each other. There is a kind of hidden meaning in it. Then they lower their heads as if nothing happened. Chen-mo put this scene into his eyes and sneered in his heart. "Do you have any objection?" In the face of Chen-mo's indifferent inquiry, a group of mafia leaders below shake their heads, for fear that their answers will be remembered by Chen-mo, and they will settle accounts after autumn. Including the two people with strange thoughts just now, they are also following the crowd. "Very well, then Albert will tell you about the new rules." Chen-mo then leaned back and gave the scene to the old housekeeper. A group of mafia leaders at the bottom cast their eyes on the old man who had been standing by since he came in. Their eyes were full of scrutiny. Old Albert, standing on Chen-mo's side, heard the words, stepped forward, glanced around calmly, and said slowly in his low and peaceful voice, "Since you are willing to accept the leadership of the martial arts school, everything must follow the new rules. A lot of things need to change in the era of the two families. Let's start with the commandments of the organization. The past, the mafia had 7 precepts, but many times they were nothing and were not strictly enforced. Now we have made some changes to them." At this point, old Albert took out a piece of paper from his left pocket, opened it gently, and then slowly took out a pair of square tortoiseshell glasses from the inner pocket of his suit and put them on slowly. Then he raised the paper to his eyes and read it. Family, 7 commandments. The first, there should be a strict tone of mouth and keep it as tight as a bottle. Article 2, the interests of the organization are higher than those of the individual and the overall situation is the most important. Article 3, Obey orders completely. Orders from higher authorities shall be obeyed unconditionally and shall not be disobeyed. Article 4. Absolute loyalty, no treason or surrender. Article 5. Strict confidentiality mechanism, no secrets of the organization can be told to family members. Article 6. No private action, no kidnapping and other criminal cases without the consent of the organization, and no indiscriminate killing of innocents. Article 7. Brotherhood is higher than one another. Brothers cannot kill each other. It is strictly forbidden to fight against each other. Albert read to stop here, looked at the mafia leaders with different looks under his eyes, and went on. The above 7 family commandments must be strictly observed by everyone. The previous state of being lax, disorderly, and reckless, and seeing the commandments as nothing, will come to an end from today. Anyone who violates the family commandments will be severely punished. If the circumstances are serious, they shall be executed directly. Ignore the restless crowd below, Albert continued. Chapter 37. In the future, you have to change your way of doing things. The old housekeeper told Chen's rules and requirements one by one. Smuggling, casinos and nightclubs can be continued, and protection fees can be collected, but as long as the other party pays protection fees, we must guarantee the interests of the shopkeeper and solve their problems. And those who are not allowed to engage in the above-mentioned activities, such as extortion, theft, robbery, forced prostitution, and trafficking in human beings, will be strictly prohibited. Anyone who is found to engage in the above activities will be punished by the family. With Albert's description, the faces of all the people here become more and more wonderful. Finally, someone can't sit down. I saw Chen Mo reclining in his chair and sleeping with his eyes closed. Only old Albert with gray hair was talking. The 2 people who had just made eye contact privately looked at each other once again, and one of them stood up. "We are mafia. Just rely on these dirty activities you said to make money to live. Now if you say a word you want us to stop, I'm afraid brothers won't agree." As soon as his words came out, the scene was quiet. All of them looked at Chen Mo and Albert. Frank turned his head and looked at Anderson. Both of them looked dignified. Sure enough, they are still unwilling. When the 2 families are destroyed, the happiest ones are Harris and Walker. Their power is the strongest except for the 2 families. As soon as they receive the news, they are both ecstatic. They are ready to call together people to kill each other's biggest competitor at one stroke, seize the rule of Brooklyn, and become the new underground king. As for the martial arts school, the 2 people who were blinded by the power took it for granted that they must have relied on their quick skills to sneak into the headquarters of the 2 families in the middle of the night and attack and assassinate them. Otherwise, there is no way to explain how only 7 people killed the 2 families and hundreds of people unhurt. At the beginning, Tony and his gang were assassinated by Chen Mo, the master of the martial arts school. They concluded that people in the martial arts school must be top killers. At the same time, they couldn't help exclaiming that the 2 families were too careless and had ruled Brooklyn safely for too many years, but their defense had been relaxed to such a degree. They had known that. They hired a group of killers to sneak in and kill them. Then they had already unified Brooklyn. After learning that the martial arts school called all the leaders of Brooklyn forces to attend the meeting tonight, they were stunned. Last time the martial arts school killed Tony, the mad dog, but there was no movement at all. He kept the martial arts school honestly and lived a life of no struggle with the world. Why did he change his character? Do they also covet the seat of the underground king of Brooklyn? Walker and Harris, who felt that their cake was being watched by others, were uneasy for a while. Although there were only 7 people in the martial arts school, it was a huge threat. They didn't know how strong the real strength of the martial arts school was after all. At noon of the same day, Walker found Harris, the 2 of whom were sworn enemies and came together under the threat of the martial arts school. They agreed to take this opportunity to kill the people of the martial arts school together, and then, like the two families at the beginning, jointly control Brooklyn. Of course, all this is just a verbal agreement between the two. As for what they think, no one knows. They have been looking for opportunities to make troubles since Chen Mo entered the conference room. After listening to Chen Mo's new rules, they finally decide to stop acting. They believe that other people must also be very dissatisfied with these messy rules of bullshit. Now is the right time. As for Chen Mo, although his evil spirit is really oppressive, which makes them feel more pressure and has a stronger prediction of Chen Mo's strength, the power temptation of the underground king makes them ignore all threats, and the pistol at his waist also gives them confidence. They were still laughing at Chen Mo's being so big that they were allowed to enter with guns. Did he think he could dodge bullets? How naive. But it's also good. It saves them a lot of things. I'll take out the gun and kill Chen Mo in a moment, which will surely frighten the whole audience. I must take the lead, but I can't be taken by the other side. Not to mention their hearts, Albert didn't respond to Harris's sudden outburst very much. He looked at him calmly and asked the audience again, "And others, do you think so?" A group of people sat quietly below. No one spoke. Walker stood up with a smile and said proudly, "Brooklyn is our mafia territory. It's up to us to decide what to do." Albert again ignored Walker and continued, "Is there anyone else? We two are enough." The long-prepared sudden attack was treated so lightly, and the eyes of the two people who felt despised flashed fiercely. They took out the pistol hidden in their waist and pointed to Albert and Chen Mo, who was sitting in the first place. Chen Mo, who had been sleeping in his chair, opened his eyes. The cold light flashed in his eyes and his murderous spirit overflowed. "Is this your dependence?" Chen Mo's sharp eyes were full of killing intent. The two people holding the gun felt a little cold on their backs, but they felt the metal texture of the gun in their hands. The heavy weight made them feel at ease. The owner of the martial arts school was really not simple. He almost scared them just now. The self-confident two men point the pistol firmly at Chen Mo. Harris looks at Chen Mo, who is still sitting on the chair, and looks cold and says sarcastically, "I know you're good, but can you stop the bullets? I don't know if you are confident or stupid. You don't have any defense. You don't need to search to let us in. Look, now I just need to pull the trigger and kill you immediately." With that, Harris moved the muzzle of his gun and pointed it straight to Chen Mo's eyebrow. "You can try." Chen Mo looked at him with unchanged face and said in a cold voice, "Ha ha, I don't know how to live or die. Now I'm still talking hard. Can you still dodge bullets? Okay, since you want to die, I'll make it up to you and die for me." With that, Harris was ready to pull the trigger and kill Chen Mo, not only eliminating the biggest threat to Brooklyn's rule, but also deterring the people present and making them obedient. On one side of the old Albert did not rush forward this time in front of Chen Mo, but calmly stood there, a face waiting to see a good play. Bang! Harris pulled the trigger with a grin on his face. The bullet rushed out of the gun and shot at Chen Mo's eyebrow and heart at a speed that can't be caught by the naked eye. If Harris can be the leader of a force, his shooting skill is not weak. Chapter 38. At this time, everything seemed to slow down in Chen Mo's eyes. The bullets were spinning a little bit in his eyes. Chen Mo turned his head, and the bullets flew over his ears and shot into the wall behind him through the back of the chair. With his neck back, Chen Mo looked at Harris with disdain. His ferocious smile still hung on his face, but the pupil of his eyes shrank suddenly, and then his face became frightened. The cold sweats fell from his forehead, and the hands lifting the gun began to tremble. Walker just regretted being robbed of the limelight by Harris. Seeing that Chen Mo was about to be killed by Harris, he couldn't help thinking about how to deal with it next, and whether to kill Harris directly now. Who knows, in the moment of the shooting, Chen Mo turned his head sideways and miraculously avoided the bullet. When Walker saw the ghost face, he couldn't help wondering if he and Harris had made a wrong choice this time. All the leaders of the forces who have been sitting still and intend to watch them chain are also shocked by the magic scene that suddenly happened in front of them. Everyone is shocked. People can really avoid bullets, which is beyond their cognitive limit. In the conference room after this shot suddenly fell into a dead silence. At this time, there was a sudden fierce gunshot outside the window which woke up the shocked people. Harris and Walker looked at each other, and a very strong bad feeling came to their hearts. They couldn't help turning their heads to look at Chen Mo. Not only did I let you two come in with guns, but I also let the people you brought hide in the opposite alley smoothly. Chen Mo looks at some panicked two people and says slowly in a cold voice, "How do you know?" Harris and Walker were shocked. They didn't know until this time that all the movements they thought they were hiding were exposed to Chen Mo's eyes, and all the movements were controlled by him. "You have agreed to take the gunshot as the number, and all the people hiding in the alley will rush in to grasp the whole situation. Kill me, and then you suddenly get into trouble, kill each other, then subdue other forces and take control of the entire underground kingship of Brooklyn. How can you?" They were frightened by Chen Mo's words. He not only knew their hidden hands and agreed secret codes, but also knew their plans in secret. This made them feel naked and stand in front of Chen Mo. He knew all the secrets. The gunshots outside the window rang for a while, and then they stopped. Harris and Walker prayed in their hearts, hoping that their men would appear in front of them in a moment, so that they would have a chance to turn over. Unfortunately, everything is extravagant. Before long, the door of the conference room was pushed open, and a fierce Chinese-American man in a black combat suit walked in with an automatic rifle on his back. Han Qing went to Chen Mo's side and said in a high voice, "The owner, all the hidden enemies have been eliminated. No one has been injured." Han Qing's words shattered their last hope. Waving his hand to let Han Qing out, Chen Mo frowned and looked at the two men who were still pointing their guns at him. Although their hands were shaking, they didn't give up at all. Without the outside hands, the guns in their hands have become their only dependence. However, after Chen Mo's dodging bullets just now, the guns in their hands look more like a joke and have no deterrent power. And still have to fight finally under the pressure of Chen Mo's momentum, they chose to break out. Instead of waiting for death, they might as well give up their lives and have a chance to turn the tables. Unfortunately, they still slowed down a step. As soon as the fierce color in their eyes appeared before their fingers could pull the trigger, Chen Mo had two guns in his hand. After two shots sounded almost at the same time, there was a blood hole in their forehead. The body slowly fell down. Two pistols fell on the conference table, as if laughing at their self-sufficiency. Several leaders sitting next to the two were sprayed with blood and brains, but they sat still firmly in the chair, letting the cold sweat on their foreheads flow slowly with blood and brains. Chen Mo finished all this, leaned back to the back of the chair and closed his eyes again. Albert glanced around and straightened his glasses. "Well, there's no objection now. Let's go on." The people below listened to Albert's story quietly, as if nothing had happened just now, but the blood trickling slowly under their feet reminded them of the demise of the two powerful forces in a short time. Frank and Anderson are the most calm people in the game. It doesn't matter who is in charge or who is in power. They are old and just want to stay in the present state, live together with their families and spend their old age. Even if Chen Mo put forward some harsh rules, it's not unacceptable. Who can make people have a big fist? Just act in a low-key way and earn less money. Maybe it's a good thing. There are more bad things to do, and there's nothing to end up with, for example, two people lying on the ground. However, Albert's next words really surprised them. At the same time, Chen Mo also pointed out a new development direction for them. In the future, the martial arts school will invest and lead them into a new industry. Construction, transportation, food, clothing, animal husbandry, hotel, real estate. Many legal industries have a lot of room for development. You can easily earn money in the office. Why do you have to do those dirty little things? At the beginning, although everyone was intimidated by the ruthlessness of Chen Mo and the huge momentum of his body, He could only be regarded as a little afraid, far from being obedient and obedient. If he really wants to make them willing to obey, he has to rely on real power and interests. However, what Chenmo just showed was their unimaginable strength, which made them unable to resist anymore. At the same time, Albert gave them a grand blueprint for their development. With the combination of strength and interest, Chenmo firmly grasped their hearts and truly controlled the underground forces in Brooklyn. A new family was born in this sinful land. In fact, after killing the two families at first, Chenmo intended to wipe out all the mafia forces in Brooklyn. Chapter 39. However, even if he cleans all the underground forces in Brooklyn in a short time, there will be new forces born, growing, fighting, and finally a new leader. Nothing will change. Brooklyn is still a city full of chaos, crime, and crime. In this case, Chenmo decided to control the underground forces of the city by himself and solve the problem once and for all. Although it was only a random act of his own volition, who knows what kind of changes will be brought to the world in the future. At the end of the meeting, Albert explained the rules and plans made by Chenmo, stepped back and stood back. Chenmo on the chair slowly opened his eyes. He was too lazy to talk with these people. Fortunately, there was an old housekeeper who saved him a lot of things. After the changes just now, the people below have already put their minds in order. They look at Chenmo in awe and wait for him to speak. I won't say much nonsense. From now on, there will be only one family in Brooklyn. That's the 7 Commandments. Chenmo remembers that he was later used by Obadiah to kidnap Tony Stark. The organization was called the 10 Commandments Gang. Chenmo, who was too lazy to name it, decided to call the 7 Commandments Gang after the gang, so as to let them remember the 7 commandments of the family and abide by the rules. Yes. Godfather, all the people below answered in unison. Chenmo nodded slightly, stood up and walked to the wall of the conference room. There was a tall, thick and solid medieval tower shield on the wall in front of him. I will not be here for a long time. In order to prevent you or your future successors from forgetting the rules I set, I will leave you a gift. Chenmo said and suddenly hit the tower shield with his fist. The speed of the fist was amazing. The continuous shadow of the fist made people see some days. Dong, 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 dong. The interval of the 7 sounds was very short and the roar of the ear was heard. The eardrum of all the people was hurt by the tremor, but the whole room was shaking. Chenmo turns around and takes Albert out of the meeting room, leaving a room full of gaping new leaders of the 7 commandments looking at each other. On the heavy tower shield made of the whole steel plate, there are 7 deep fist marks, and the shape of the fist is clear. After Chenmo's dodging bullets, all the people on the scene had a certain ability to accept Chenmo's non-human strength. After a moment of consternation, they went back to their senses and stood up one by one to come forward to have a careful observation. However, a few people just came to the front of the tower shield. The wall with the tower shield suddenly shook, and the cracks appeared on the wall around the tower shield. A few of the nearest people backed away. Just a few steps away, the shaking wall collapsed, revealing a hole with a diameter of more than 2 meters. The meeting room was filled with smoke and dust for a while. After a while, when the smoke and dust cleared up a little, everyone gathered around again. The bricks falling from the wall were piled up under the wall, but none of them were in good condition. All of them were broken by Chen's fist strength. There was a tall tower shield lying on the rubble. On the silver surface, 7 clear fist marks were deeply printed on it. 7 commandments in this regard. The underground forces in Brooklyn are unified. A new and powerful organization, the 7 Ring Gang, firmly controls the underground forces in Brooklyn and even in New York in the future. The logo of their gang, the medieval tower shield with 7 fist seals on one side, is solemnly placed in the Presbyterian Hall, the core of the gang. At the end of 1943, the Chinese martial arts school in Brooklyn. Chenmo is holding a coffee cup and leaning comfortably on the broad sofa in the living room. He has a good taste of coffee. Chen Mo feels extremely satisfied and relaxed. After half a year, he finally drinks the coffee made by old Albert himself. Howard, who was sitting opposite, gave him a white look. "I seriously doubt now that you are in a hurry to come back for this coffee." "You're right." Chen Mo doesn't lift his eyes. He's comfortably stuck in the sofa and doesn't want to move. "But it's good. I'm in favor of your decision," Howard said, holding the cup and leaning against the sofa. He raised the cup from time to time and took a drink. One side of the old Albert looked at the two people collapsed in the sofa, helplessly shook his head, mouth corners but hung a kind smile. Chen Mo took them to the wharf to rescue people, clean up the two families, and recover the underground forces from their return. They were not idle for a moment. Everyone was very tired. Now the dust is finally settled. Finally, they can have a good rest. Quiet time always passes quickly. After a pot of coffee, they finally sat up from the sofa. "It's all settled on your side. Shall we get down to business?" Howard looked at Chen Mo and asked. This time, Chen Mo and Howard came back together. Apart from solving the mafia's threat to the martial arts school, there are two important things to do. One of them is to invite Dr. Myron Maclean, the maker of Zhenjin Shield, to join the Shendan Bureau in the research and development of super alloy. Chen Mo is very interested in the legendary Edelman alloy. If he guesses right, it should be invented by Dr. Mark Lane. According to Chen Mo's analysis, the vibrating shield material he used should be the original Edelman alloy, which is the most powerful one among all Edelman alloys. Unfortunately, it was formed by accident in another experiment, so it's only one. The steel claw and internal skeleton of Wolverine in X-Men failed in trying to copy the original Edelman alloy, while the real Edelman alloy produced by X-Men was slightly lower in performance than the original Edelman alloy, but could be manufactured in a small scale. Although the bulletproof armor Chen Mo now uses is made of the special bulletproof alloy with the best performance at present, it has gradually failed to meet Chen Mo's need for defense. Although with Chen Mo's strength and physical strength, weight is not a problem, but too high thickness will affect the flexibility of action. Bulletproof armor made of current materials, resistance to pistols, rifles, and even ordinary caliber machine guns are not a problem. But once faced with heavy machine guns and anti-aircraft guns, the defense is somewhat inadequate. Chen Mo urgently needs a more powerful material to make a new bulletproof armor that can provide enough defense. Hearing Howard's warning, Chen Mo nodded. "We'll start tomorrow morning." The second day, Chapter 40. Under Howard's leadership, the two came to Dr. Marklane's laboratory, which is also his home. Since the original Edelman shield was accidentally made, Dr. Marklane has been trying to replicate that process again and find a way to make the original Edelman. Unfortunately, no matter how he tried, he couldn't restore the accident again. The experiment was once stagnant. After consuming a lot of precious gold vibrating materials, he didn't come up with any results. The government finally interrupted the project, and Dr. Maclean returned home with deep reluctance. The process of inviting doctors went well. Dr. Marklane is a pure scientist who is not interested in anything. He was absorbed in the research of special alloy materials, but after he accidentally made the sound-absorbing steel shield, he was possessed, and all his thoughts were on the research of Edelman alloy. Even if the project was terminated by the government, he still did not give up, and continued to carry out the research of Edelman alloy in his own home. Unfortunately, limited by Zhenjin's rarity, it is difficult to obtain by virtue of his personal ability, and the experiment was once difficult to carry out. After Chen Mo promised to provide enough vibration gold as experimental materials, Dr. Marklane readily agreed to join the Shendan Bureau. At the same time, Chen Mo found something interesting. Dr. Slab, as like as 2 pieces of shields hung from his living room, is almost the same as the vibrant shield he uses. In the face of Chen Mo's doubts, the doctor smiled and gave an explanation. It turns out that Dr. Marklane was a fan of cold weapons in the Middle Ages. The reason why he is engaged in the research of metallurgical materials is also because of his strong interest in cold weapons. He hopes to develop stronger materials and make stronger weapons. Among all the cold weapons, he is most obsessed with the round shield. In his opinion, the round shield is the most perfect and the most solid shape. The round shield can block, impact, throw, attack, and defense. It is the most perfect weapon in his mind. The material produced by research always needs a mold, so he simply designed a round shield with perfect dynamic shape and made all the experimental materials into shields. It's nice to hang it on the wall as a decoration, Dr. Marklane said proudly, looking at the round shield hanging all over the room. Chen Mo thought to himself, the strange aesthetic of scientists. Dr. Marklane has no family. The experiment is all he has. After he promised to join the Shendun Bureau, he moved directly into the secret laboratory even though he packed up. Hidden deep in the secret laboratory of the Shield Bureau in Brooklyn, Chen Mo and Howard met Dr. Erskine, whom they hadn't seen for a long time. To their surprise, the doctor standing in front of them was much younger. Dr. Erskine, who was in his 50s and had graying hair, looked a little old. At this time, he looked only in his 40s. He was tall and straight with a ruddy face. His graying hair turned black and the whole man was very energetic. If it wasn't for the familiar face and the kind smile on their face, they almost thought they were someone else. "What are you, doctor?" Howard leaned forward and looked carefully up and down. Dr. Mysterious a smile. "These don't hurry to say first, you don't introduce for me." They were reminded of Dr. Marklane. After some introduction, Dr. Marklane officially joined the secret laboratory of Shendun Bureau. Dr. Erskine had just settled down with him, and Dr. Marklane urged Chen Mo to bring Zhenjin. He wanted to conduct experiments immediately. After a lot of experiments of previous government projects, and after coming back, Dr. Erskine's own unremitting research, the research and development of Edelman alloy had already achieved an eye, which was already about to succeed, but there was no raw material. After all, it is extremely difficult for a doctor to obtain even a small amount of gold with his own strength. However, when there is no vibrating gold, the doctor is not idle. Referring to the metallographic structure of the sound-absorbing steel shield, that is, the original Edelman alloy, after years of research and trial, he has finally developed a new alloy with super performance. Although it is not comparable with the original Edelman alloy and has no indestructible characteristics, it is much stronger than the current special alloy with the best performance. High hardness, strong toughness, corrosion resistance, impact resistance, and other aspects are very excellent. Moreover, this kind of alloy does not need to vibrate gold and can be manufactured with existing materials. Although the cost of this alloy is very expensive due to the high proportion of rare metals in the composition, it is much lower than the cost of the original Edelman alloy, and it is easier to obtain and will not be limited by the raw materials. As long as the capital is enough, it can be manufactured on a large scale. Dr. Marklane named the alloy Alpha. Chen Mo is very interested in this new alloy, which is a surprise. It can be used in many aspects in the future, but what he valued most was Edelman alloy, which was the real strongest alloy. From the day when he got the gold shield and learned that Dr. Marklane existed, Chen Mo asked Colonel Phillips to collect the gold. The money was from him. In addition, the Hydra was secretly collecting it. Looking at the eager Dr. Marklane in front of him, Chen Mo reluctantly smiles and has to put down his plan to find Dr. Higgins first. "All right, doctor, Zhenjin is in the warehouse. I'll get it." All Zhenjin collected by the Strategic Science Reserve team in the early stage had been sent to the secret laboratory as early as a few days ago. No, I'll get it myself. Dr. Marklane is eager to see how much gold Chen Mo has prepared for him. He didn't know how many difficulties he had to take to get even a small piece. I hope Chen Mo has prepared enough vibration gold for him. Although he already has eyes, he is still one step away from real success. I don't know how many experiments and precious vibration gold will be spent in this last step. A secret laboratory, a storehouse for valuables. Dr. Marklane looked at the box full of dozens of kilograms of gold. His face flushed with excitement and his hands trembled. Great. That's enough. With these gold shakers, I will be able to make the real Edelman alloy. Dr. Marklane was immediately involved in the research of Edelman alloy. Seeing that he has nothing to do with himself, Chen Mo finally has time to find Dr. Erskine. Apart from dealing with the affairs of the martial arts school and Dr. Marklane, another important reason for his return is that the doctor sent a message that there has been significant progress in serum research. By the time Chen Mo found Dr. Erskine, Howard had already been there, but he was not angry. Seeing Chen Mo, Howard complained directly. "How did you come? I've been waiting for you for a long time. The doctor has to wait for you to come." The doctor smiled. "Important things, of course, will be announced when they have arrived."